like the dude just said. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to Wednesday. Y'all, it's the middle of the week. Welcome to it. You're halfway to the weekend. You know what that means. We got to hear from the camel. Play it, bud.
Oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Whoop, whoop. Yes, it is. Congratulations. Like I said, you're halfway to the weekend. We're going to get you all the way to go home time on a Friday afternoon. Just hang with us. In the meantime, pushing buttons so ably on the board. JP, how you doing, buddy?
Happy hump day.
It is indeed. It is. I'm glad. It's not Thankful Thursday yet, but it's
Not
Happy
yet.
Hump Day. So how about that?
Thankful Thursday Eve.
I like it. I like it a lot. And by the way, JP's been rewiring things, and it's working.
Not rewiring, just,
JP, let me talk you up. Let me talk you up in front of the peeps.
Sorry, yes.
JP's been rewiring things,
Hard at it.
and it's working.
It is working.
All right. I like it. And we got a great show laid on for you coming up at the beginning of hour number 3. Don't forget, it's hump day, so that means you know the deal. We bring in the Grand Council. Now, today we got a substitute. All right, so I got to ask you to change it on the board there, bud, because it's going to be Jeff Poor and Scott Buttram today. So, yeah, Scott Buttram sitting in for council member Dale Jackson, who is out today. But, yeah, Grand Council at beginning of hour number 3 with Jeff Poor and our buddy Scotty Buttram. So stand by for that one. And then there's a triple dipper just filled up with stuff. So hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right. The triple dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. So yeah, fresh out the gate. Number 1, triple dipper. The commies are coming. The commies are coming. Listen, y'all. The Democrat Party has gone full on communist. Never go full communist. Well, they are. Never go full communist. Well, they are. And I got the receipts to show you. So yeah, coming up, number 1, triple dipper. I'm going to tell you how far left they've actually gone as a party to where you might even want to say the commies are coming. Number 2, you know the deal. Every once in a while when I'm resourcing the show, getting ready for the day, I find myself looking at something going, the wokeness. Oh, how about how woke can it get? Where did all the wokeness come from? And next thing you know, you realize I've got a vast cornucopia, a plethora, a buffet, if you will, of wokeness, which means I'm going to do a section called Adventures in Woke World. That's number 2 on the triple dipper. And then number 3, I didn't get to it the other day. I held on to it, and I've even added to it. So, yeah, illegal illegals. What am I talking about? Well, illegal aliens who come to the United States and then commit crimes when they're here on top of the fact that they came here illegally. Yes, illegal illegals. Number 3, triple dipper. It's going to be something you're going to want to hear. So stand by for that one. All right, let me jump on into the Right Side Way opening monologue, and I'll remind you guys that the daily sponsor of the Right Side Way monologue is, in fact, Stan McDonald. Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee, a 30-year veteran in the practice of law. And yeah, Stan McDonald, longtime conservative, is also the daily sponsor of the Right Side Way. And I'll tell you more about Stan here in just a few minutes. All right, listen. A story came out just the other day. I thought it was fascinating. Some of y'all will too. Donald Trump Jr. apparently has a new business venture. He does. He just partnered with another entrepreneur to take a company public that some are calling the Amazon of guns. All right, you had me at guns. The Amazon of guns. Now, many people may not be aware that Don Jr. is actually a big gun guy. He loves to hunt, and I know for a fact that a friend of mine who has a wing shooting lodge right here in Northeast Alabama actually hosted him a couple years ago to hunt pheasant. So his company, the new company, is called Grab-A-Gun. Grabagun.com. I'm not just doing this as a sponsorship, but I'm just telling you what it is. Grabagun.com. They sell ammunition, firearms accessories, all on a website. He said that he considers himself a political refugee from New York, now living in the free state of Florida. And he felt like when he got to return to the New York Stock Exchange to take a firearms company public, it was like a full circle opportunity to repudiate gun policies and wokeisms that have stifled the Second Amendment and gun dealers in general. Check out their platform. It's pretty cool. I have looked at it myself, and I am already finding myself telling me to keep the credit card in the pocket. But look, one article that I read on the public offering of Grab-A-Gun said, quote, after years of gun companies being deplatformed and debanked, Trump Jr. said that his investment group's involvement with Grab-A-Gun is what he called a catalyst for change in an era where there's been a cultural shift in attitudes toward the Second Amendment. And I agree with that. I think woke world hates guns. Woke world absolutely hates guns. But the idea that a new gun company is going to deliver to people's houses, yeah, it's already driving the left nuts. You can search and you can quickly find headlines crowing on the left-leaning outlets like CNBC and Daily Beast and Bloomberg and Newswork and Reuters and all of them, saying that, well, his stock offering is fizzling. He didn't raise as many millions in his first 24 hours as he could have. Oh, okay. You know what the bottom line is? Libs don't understand guns. They don't. They don't understand them at all. They're a mystery. They can't even describe them well. They don't know what to do with them. They operate under the belief that the gun by itself is the danger, not the person who actually wields it. But really, if you get down to it, especially when it comes to firearms, liberals are just so predictable. One of the few absolutes in life is the predictable outcome of any shooting incident when liberals believe that gun control is what is needed. They will bellow it from the highest hilltops. It's gun control that we need, not enforcing criminal laws. The Second Amendment is outdated, they say, or in President Biden's words, not absolute. And that it was the gun itself that caused the crisis, not the criminal. Meanwhile, the inference is that all of us who are gun owners are somehow complicit in the crime that occurred if, in fact, we believe in the right to bear arms. Well, by that same rationale, I suppose that all car owners are complicit if a drunk driver causes an accident. One did it. Aren't they all guilty? All knife owners are complicit if a knife is used in a crime. Or here's my favorite. The game of baseball should be banned and all baseball players, young and old, should be held accountable if a baseball bat ever finds its way into a crime scene. These are ridiculous arguments based on a fallacious reasoning by simple minds who cannot grasp that accountability and punishment for bad actors should be confined to the level of criminal culpability of the actual accused, not to society as a whole. In short, gun control is a lazy man's argument in the aftermath of a shooting tragedy. But I will say this, some of the gun control proponents do provide some comedy relief. Gun control proponents, when is the gun control lobby going to start giving lessons to its members on how to actually talk about guns or not talk about them for that matter? Think about it. If you're going to try and talk bad about something, shouldn't you be able to actually describe what it is? Do you know why I don't try to spend time talking about geosynchronous orbit of satellites? Because I'm not a rocket scientist. I don't try to tell a physician what dosage to prescribe for medication. I have no clue, and I know it though. So why then do liberals continue to provide us with comic relief by talking about guns with such fervor when it's painfully obvious they have no idea what they're talking about? I don't have a good answer for that very good question, but I do have some examples. It's hilarious. Like the time when Senator Dianne Feinstein, bless her heart, said, quote, "We have federal regulations and state laws that prohibit hunting ducks with more than 3 rounds, and yet it's legal to hunt humans with 15 round, 30 round, even 150 round magazines." All right. I don't know where it's actually legal to hunt humans, but I also question the veracity of your arguments and especially the 150 round magazines. She's also, by the way, the person who said that the Clinton era assault weapons ban didn't go far enough. Or how about then Vice President Joe Biden, who believes strongly in deterrence by means of a shotgun? He said a few years back, well, my shotgun will do better for you than your AR-15 because you want to keep someone away from your house. You just fire the shotgun through the door. Well, okay. He went on to say that rifles can blast through walls and then hurt somebody. What is he even talking about now? So intruders who get in, I'm thinking Shotgun Joe's never actually loaded the 12 gauge with double-aught buck or slugs. I'm just saying. Then there was Representative Diana DeGette. Representative Diana DeGette, Democrat from Colorado, had a humdinger. Try to follow this. She said, quote, "If you ban them in the future, the number of these high-capacity magazines is going to decrease dramatically over time because bullets will have been shot and there won't be any more left." I don't even know what that means. I guess she's saying that if we reduce the number of magazines, there's going to be fewer bullets. I don't know. But I do know that where she's from, they have recreational marijuana. So there's that. Perhaps my favorite, though, of all time comes from Democrat New York Assemblywoman Patricia Eddington, who was apparently under the impression that we now have miniature heat-seeking missiles being fired at deer. Go with me here. She said this, and I'm quoting directly. She said, "Some of these bullets, as you saw, have an incendiary device on the tip of it, which is a heat-seeking device. So you don't shoot deer with a bullet that size. If you do, you'll cook it all at the same time." That's her comment. I did not make that up. So apparently no need to field dress that buck. You just shoot it with a heat-seeking bullet and serve it up hot right there in the field. Look, in the end, I could spend my entire 3-hour show today giving you constant streaming examples of liberals pretending they know something about firearms, but they don't. And they embarrass themselves when they pretend otherwise. But that's really not their aim, though, is it? The bottom line in the gun control debate is that I may not be a rocket scientist or a surgeon or a rocket surgeon for that matter, but even still, the various aspects of those professions and what they can do can be regulated out of existence if politicians want to go down that road. But the right to possess firearms is actually protected under the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, a distinction that makes the various attempts to exert control of the ownership and use of firearms even far more nefarious and egregious. It's like saying, I believe in God, but I don't believe that all the Bible's accurate. No, it doesn't work that way. You believe or you don't. I believe in everything but Genesis 1:1. You know, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. I'm sorry. If you don't believe Genesis 1:1, then why don't you just go ahead and pause and think about whether you believe about the rest of it? What I'm saying is the Constitution's that way. If you don't like the Second Amendment, you don't get to discard it. It's part of the whole. It all goes together. So likewise, when you choose to selectively abridge just one constitutional right, like the Second Amendment in this case, our basic liberties, then you have in fact called them all into question. You see, rights are either inviolable or they're not, period. That's why it's called a right. Congressman Chip Roy said it well in a gun control hearing. He said, quote, Democrats' push for stricter gun control laws is actually about their war against traditional American culture. It's not about protecting citizens from gun violence. I think he's right. The fact here is, he said, it's really about the left's culture war against gun owning and supporting America. That's what it's about. He concluded those comments, by the way, in the face of a bill that would apply some real knee-jerk restrictions to gun ownership. He said this in the end of his comments. He said, in order to tell the American people a lie, that the government will protect them, half of this committee I'm sitting on is willing to take away a citizen's God-given right to protect himself or herself from harm, and importantly, from the very tyranny being applied to them to deny the right. And there you have it. These arguments, y'all, they're often inane, they're often ridiculous, they're full of hyperbole. They clearly show that in a rush to speak and act and legislate without even understanding the facts or even the capabilities of a firearm, that the gun control mob, they don't really care about firearms. If they did, they would at the very least present a cogent factual statement instead of embarrassing themselves by talking about something that makes no sense. Now, instead, they're really intent on creating control. That's what they want. They want control. The weakening of liberties embedded in our Constitution and more political firepower for themselves, if you'll excuse the pun. And they don't care how they get there, even if it takes a 150-round magazine of shotgun shells with a barrel shroud. Huh. Live free or die, right? That's a wrap for the Rightside way. Yeah, live free or die. Love that motto. But the truth is, it is a right. The Second Amendment is not just a privilege. It's not an opportunity. It's not just something you're allowed to do if you feel like it. It's a right. And they can't just take it away from you. But you'd think if they were going to argue against it, they would at least understand how to verbalize their arguments and not sound like complete buffoons when they open their mouths. But then again, we are talking about the left. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Conundrum. Stephen Colbert, show being canceled. What does this mean? Is this the end of the world? Is nighttime TV, late night TV, is it gone? Is it history? Is it toast? Is it falling to the annals of obscurity? Luann from Huntsville just texted in. She says, Phil, nobody's watching the Mockingbird media. First, Trump, Mockingbird media. Interesting. The Mockingbird media says, first, Trump defunds PBS and NPR, both mouthpieces for the left. And next, corporate media leaders have now realized late night platforms have become antiquated in the on-demand world. I love it, she said. Now, RFK Jr. would just ban drug commercials. That would be the best. Listen, man, that's coming, by the way. I would love that. One less Ozempic commercial, please. What's the one, too? There's one where it's so embarrassing. They dance and they anyway, I don't know. I don't
watch much cable TV anyways.
Well, okay. So you're not my target audience on this question.
No.
Then. All right. But hey, listen, let's talk about this. The Colbert conundrum. Stuff happens, right? I mean, listen, there's an entire audience out there that remembers Johnny Carson. Look, I loved Johnny Carson and I was a kid. I loved Johnny Carson. Do you know in 1992, when Johnny Carson had his last night on TV, after decades of just nailing it every single night. I mean, the guy was just funny. He was, you watched the show and you were entertained. You got to see the crazy interviews. There were certain things you began to expect, shtick that he would have every time. And Johnny Carson, though, he could joke about something you cared about and you were never offended. I mean, Carson was the master at being able to poke fun at everybody and nobody all at the same time. He didn't get political, and he actually said that he didn't get political on purpose. You know why? Because that way there was no way that he was going to lose an audience to something as benign and sometimes as trivial as politics. Not no mo. In the polarized environment that we find the media in so often these days, they are willing to go ahead and just trash more than half the nation. I say more than half because think about it. I mean, literally, Colbert would go up every night and he would make just one slam after another about Trump and anybody who liked Trump or anybody who circled Trump, anybody who was in Trump's sphere, anybody who, agreed with Trump, all of it. He would go constantly. I mean, I've got one article here in my stack of stuff that I'll get to in a minute. And the author of the article says he actually sat through Colbert one night and the monologue contained 5 separate Trump jokes in a row. It was just like nonstop. He said, I finally turned it off. Think about it. If we won the electoral and the popular vote, the electoral college and the popular vote, we slammed it. We flipped more counties in California red than there had been in years. We took the swing states. What this tells you is that the overwhelming majority of America is constantly getting insulted by these late night platforms, Colbert being one of the chief among them. And so if every single night you're going to go out there and do that, well, I started to say a moment ago, think back, Johnny Carson, his last night on TV, an estimated 50 million people tuned in. I mean, that's epic scale. And I realize that was also his last night. I get it. But here most recently, Colbert was down to 1.7 million on a regular basis. Roughly 1.7 million according to the ratings. What does that tell you? He can't hold a candle to the guys that used to do it right. There was a huge amount of success in the past, which, I get it. Things change. Maybe there's a new way of doing things. The new shtick is the best shtick. And sometimes it's not, though. And Colbert just fooled around and found out. And now the left is having a complete meltdown over it. Why? Why would they have a meltdown? Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I'll tell you right now, the reason why Colbert's gone is because of 3 things. 2 of which are tied together. I just mentioned one of them. People got tired of being insulted, which ties directly to number 2, which is their ratings. The ratings just sucked. Their ratings were in the tank. They were dropping like crazy. And then there's finances. You still got to run it like a business. If a show is on the air and nobody cares, then what have you really got? You've just got something occupying the airwaves. You're not doing anything of value. You're not bringing something that people want to even advertise on, because what happens is, like anything else, people find out where the trends are, where the people are, and that's where they'll place their ads. And guess what pays the bills? The ads. And so you've got just this weird cabal of things here. You've got the people getting tired of being insulted, meaning they quit turning it on. So you had half the nation could care less about Colbert anymore. And then you had finances. And all said and done, it became a massive business decision. All right, so where are we on this? Well, late night television, according to investing.com. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Like saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right, so I got to tell you real quick about Stan McDonald. Just saw him this morning, as a matter of fact. And by the way, I tell you what I love. Let me just go ahead and take a moment of personal privilege here before I even do my whole Stan McDonald bit. What I love is the fact that, so Stan is the sponsor of the show, right? He's a sponsor of the Rightside Way monologue. And then he tells me when we're talking about how many people in the community come up to him and say, hey, I heard about you on Rightside. And he's got listen, there's apparently a sweet lady at Popeyes in, I think, Athens, who he sees regularly when he's getting a biscuit, who always thanks him and says very sweet things about the show. And just a sweet older lady that he described to me as being just a godsend. And I'm just saying right now, if she's listening, thank you. And we love you too. And so thank you very much. But all y'all that hear Stan being advertised and then telling him about it, that gets back to us. It also blesses us. So thank you very much. So let me tell you about Stan McDonald, by the way. Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee, 30-year veteran in the practice of law, long time conservative, long time. Listen, he can fight for all your legal needs. He's also a policy warrior from way back. But yeah, Stan McDonald has represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions over the years. And I will tell you right now, he can stand up for you in any local, state, or federal court. I like to say if Stan McDonald is on your side, then you will have no greater friend. Likewise, your adversaries would have no greater foe. And I mean that. All that to say, yes, Stan McDonald. If you need his phone number because you need an attorney, let me give it to you. You ready? Stan McDonald, the law firm is Wilmer and Lee. He's an America First family man. The phone number is 256-479-3020. That's Stan McDonald, 256-479-3020. And tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. Thank you very much. Nobody said how you made the quality legal service before it was great. The quality legal service for the lawyers. I tried to just do it without a hesitation.
If that wasn't a 10, I was pretty dang close. So you got back-to-back.
I felt like I slurred one of the words.
Back-to-back good attempts with hardly any deep breath in. So I'll just say that.
Well, now, what do you say to that? You just drive on with the show. Text lines are open. By the way, it's text lines, call lines now because the phone is back, baby. Back. 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. You can text it or call it. We'll take it. Some of y'all are already in there. John from Huntsville got his in. He says, Phil, spectacular monologue. Thank you. Also, did you hear that a bunch of Ukrainians are protesting against Zelensky? I did not. By the way, JP, the Braves are still playing terrible.
Yep, they are.
Okay.
What else is new?
Okay, there you go. Dave from Capshaw sent a meme of Babylon Bee, disheveled Colbert seen holding up the cardboard sign saying, "We'll yell about Trump for cash." And JT Lacey Springs says the irony of congregating left liberal masses is they cannot see the M is usually silent. What? Okay. I'll just let that go.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I was going to provide clarity if you needed it, but
I might need it later. Thomas Mathen says there's the often used leftist, hang on a second. The often used leftist arguments that you don't need a 30-round magazine to hunt deer. But I may want one, he says, for protection or fun at the range. The leftist doesn't need a big, expensive gas guzzler to get to work either when a little EV or a bicycle would suffice. So I guess they want to use their own gas guzzler. I agree with you. Look, and the bottom line is this. I've been trained. It doesn't take much. If I put me down to a 20-round magazine, I can change that bad boy out real fast and keep loading 20s. What do you think of that? It's not going to stop problems. It's crime that's the issue. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Investing.com says this, the CBS executives said in their statement that dropping the show was a purely financial decision against a challenging backdrop in late night. Okay, what's that mean? Well, being the late night format, the article points out, has been struggling for several years now. People are migrating to streaming. The younger audiences tend to watch YouTube and TikTok and whatever other.
Okay. I have TikTok, but I'm not doom scrolling on TikTok.
I'm sorry. Did I offend you?
Yeah, you offended me a little bit. Yeah.
Americans used to religiously turn on Johnny Carson or Jay Leno before bedtime, but yeah, advertising revenue for Colbert's show has dropped over 40% since 2018. The financial reality CBS said prompted a decision to end the late night show. By the way, he's going to go all the way through May of next year, so he's got like 10 months left. So he's not done, but he's just not being renewed. One former TV network executive said the program was the casualty of the fading economics of broadcast television. Okay, look, here's a couple of stats for you. You ready? 15 years ago, the Tonight Show could earn upwards of $100 million a year in revenue generated. Recently low, like I said, the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, $40 million a year. That's a huge drop. The show's ad revenue plummeted to $70 million last year, from 121 in 2018. So yeah, they were tanking, and the ratings for the show had peaked out at 3.1 million viewers back in 2017-18 and down to 1.9 this year. That's literally like a 45% drop in viewership, a 60% drop in revenue, and all said and done, it's not sustainable. Now, people are freaking out about this because of Trump. Why Trump? All right, when we get back from the break, I'm going to give you the whole Trump analogy. Why they're sure. Why the left is absolutely sure that the Colbert conundrum can only be explained by the mean, evil orange man who swooped in to the private sector and unhinged the most popular of all late night TV shows. Yeah, not really. But I'll tell you why they think that, and I'll give you the ways to refute it. So when you have those water cooler conversations, when you're talking to folks in Sunday school, when you're sitting there with a coworker and you got some downtime, you can say, hey, by the way, man, is that Colbert stuff? You know what I heard? Tell them. You'll be the genius at the table. I'm just saying. We come at you with facts and figures on this stuff. So yeah, the Colbert conundrum, it's real. And you know what it's based in? Trump derangement syndrome. So I'm doing the first dipper here. I'm calling it the Colbert conundrum. Get a few text messages real quick. Kim from Danville said, if I wanted a good night's sleep and not to go to bed mad, I couldn't watch Colbert Show. Yeah, no doubt. Karen from Madison said, thanks for the birthday greeting per day from Capshaw's request. Said she loved the screaming goat too. Outstanding. Good stuff. Karen, happy birthday to you. And there it is. The goat says happy birthday again. So there you go. John from Huntsville says, Phil, all these late night shows should be called the Bash Trump late night shows. Also, David Letterman was the best late night host. No, David Letterman was not the best. It was Johnny Carson, I tell you. And then it was Jay Leno. Johnny Carson, then Jay Leno. Letterman was okay. Just okay. Letterman also got really weird towards the end, though. He was very moody, very temperamental. And I heard too that he like things like he kept the studio at like 61 degrees. Like people were freezing, but that was his preference. So his studio was just cold.
Why would you do that?
I don't know. Because I don't know, entitled. I don't know.
Power move.
I guess. But yeah. So anyway. Hey, so by the way, Ken from Harvest checking in. He says, continuing from yesterday, they could replace Colbert with old Western movies like Open Range, Outlaw Josie Wales, Rio Bravo, True Grit, etc. That's taking yesterday and mashing it with today.
I like it.
I see what he did there. All right, so yeah, Colbert. What the heck, man? Why is he gone? Could it be? Did Trump get involved? Here's the reason why they say that. So Paramount Global is the parent company of CBS, right? Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast US of A. Y'all are talking about this show. This one, whew, I mean to say, it goes from like Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that lovely little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the line from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. Oh, yeah. And that's just the radio. That's just the radio footprint, y'all. And thank you very much. But then there's all of y'all in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web. Live streaming the show, looking into the studio, gazing in on what we got going on here from places like X and YouTube and Rumble and our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then all you guys that podcasted after the fact, listen, I say all that to say, it's a part of the thank you. I make note of the fact that we know where all of you are, and we love every one of you. We appreciate the fact that this audience gives us the reason to get on the air every day and do this. So thank you very much. We appreciate you. A few more text lines, or text messages. The text line, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Jerry from Decatur said, enjoyed your monologue, Phil. What the libs are about is changing this country's founding as we know it. See, the last two Democrats elected for president, he said. It's the reason we must always have the position that we will always fight back. See General Flynn. All right, fair enough. Allie from Athens says, if you want to make an anti-gun folks twitch, just remind them that the Constitution not only guarantees the right to bear arms, but directly indicates that it's a God-given right, not a government-given right. Excellent point. Thank you very much. Jeff from Indiana says, "Hey Phil, I'm afraid the Democrats are right. Sometimes it's the gun's fault because a gun in the hands of a Democrat is more intelligent than the holder." Well played, sir. Tony from Franklin, Tennessee says, oh, and what's he saying? And Bowling Green, Kentucky today, sir. What's he saying?
I guess he's saying that's where he's texting from today.
Okay, dude, so I see it. Thank you very much. Glad you're there. And then the last couple one before I just jump into some content here. Kevin from Hartselle says, my definition of gun control is keeping it steady while aiming. Yes, yes, indeed. I mean, gun control, what is that? All gun control really is, breath control and trigger squeeze and a good sight alignment. And then Nofre from Lexington says, Tulsi Gabbard burning down the press room at the White House. Yes, indeed. In fact, that's a great segue. I was traveling. So I was up in Huntsville for meetings this morning. That's where I saw my buddy Stan McDonald, but I was up there in Huntsville for meetings today and traveling back and have not been able to catch some of the latest breaking news. So JP, what's up? What did she do?
So she released more documents.
Tulsi
Gabbard, directly implicating Obama even more in these
Really?
releases. So pretty much in summary, there was about 15 reports that the CIA compiled alluding to Putin maybe having preference to Trump winning the election, and they didn't release them at the time because even the intelligence officers were saying these are unsubstantiated.
Wow.
They don't meet the requirements to be released. Like these are nothing burgers. However, and this part I'm putting up on the screen right here is where Obama's directly implicated. Says that acting on President Obama's orders, DCIA Brennan directed a full review and publication of these after the election, knowing full well that they were unsubstantiated, didn't have anything to them.
Is that a summary or is that a document that says that?
That's straight up from a document right here. It says, acting on President Obama's orders, DCIA Brennan directed a full review and publication
Holy crap.
of this information that had been collected before the election.
So this is the second tranche of documents, not just the first.
This is the second tranche. And like I said, these implicate Obama even more directly. So knowing full well these were unsubstantiated claims, tag with it, just release them anyways. So that's pretty blatant in my opinion.
Yeah, there's I've been in the place to receive military intelligence, and there are times when you wish it would say what you wanted it to say, but it doesn't, or it doesn't give you enough. And you can't just like read into it. You can interpolate, you can decide, you have to make a decision based on what you know, but that's not this.
No.
This appears to be a revision in order to get to a solution.
Yeah. Knowing full well. And I think one of the intelligence officers, a quote in the document said something about how these were biased, just plain odd. Like even they knew these are, what are we doing? These are nothing, So
in fact, there they are. She's doing a repeat right now of her press conference today, Tulsi Gabbard. So was there any discussion about whistleblowers? Because she said the other day she had whistleblowers coming forward.
I haven't seen any clips from Tulsi's. I haven't watched it in full. I've just seen quotes and clips. I haven't seen anything of her saying that today. I think today was more just a simply relaying what the documents say, and she was asked like 50 times from the press, like, are you saying Obama committed treason? Are you saying Obama committed treason? And she just simply said, like, we've handed it over to the DOJ. They'll handle it from here. But she did say Obama is directly implicated in this.
Wow. Also,
I'd say one more part of this is pretty crazy. Apparently, Russia had information about Hillary Clinton. So I don't know how they got this information, but apparently
there's this thing called spies.
Yes. Well, it's kind of, disturbing they got this, but apparently they have internal claims that Hillary was on heavy tranquilizers, suffering from intense psycho-emotional problems, and apparently internal DNC comms that Obama and others found Hillary's health extraordinarily alarming.
Listen, I talked to a guy who worked in the White. I got two sources. I talked to a guy who worked in the Clinton White House, who said that literally when she was coming through the hallways, they had a system of warning each other to get out of the hallways so that no one would have to incur her wrath, because she would pick a target of the day and she would just dress down staff for no reason. She was just like a complete tyrant. But I have somebody else who told me that that basically she was impossible to work with, and that they had like convince her to like do her hair, that kind of thing. You're going to be out in public, ma'am. I think we had and just, if you look at her, sometimes she looks really stringy.
Yeah.
It's because she just like, she has this kind of like bag lady appearance, and she keeps forgetting to take care of it. And so she's just like an odd personality. She's an entitled personality. She's also a very power broker personality. And the sad part is she was in positions to act on it. But you're saying they're saying the intel assessments from Russia said she had psycho-emotional problems.
Intensified psycho-emotional problems, yes. And there's also evidence of secret meetings with religious leaders where she offered significant increases in funding from the State Department in return for their support.
Religious leaders. Is that like a Reverend Al Sharpton or
exactly.
a Reverend Jesse Jackson?
Yeah, that seems like it would track. But if Russia had all of this before the election and they actually wanted Trump to win, I think that would be released before, but it wasn't. So I don't know. It's a lot of what was released today was I'm more encouraged that something's going to be done about it. I'll just say that.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be something to watch. And I tell you what, though, it's long overdue. And I'm really sick to death of seeing lots and lots of talk without any true. 2 points here. On the one hand, I'm glad stuff's coming out. I'm glad that all of the lawfare proponents are getting a dose because they deserve it. I don't like wish ill on. I don't want to just say, well, please conjure something up. I don't care what it is. Get them with something. I'm not doing that. But if it's there, I want it known. And then the second piece is on accountability. And I don't know if we're going to get accountability, to be honest with you. I get concerned about that, especially when I see some of the activist judges who would very likely be the ones who would get the cases. I mean, how would they even find someone to preside over a case like this? I don't know. But if it's so damning that CNN has to talk about it, which they did earlier, wow.
Well, it's funny you say that because during the press briefing, right when Tulsi started to go into Obama's implication in it, I forgot the guy's name again. Wolf
Blitzer.
Well, yes. Wolf Blitzer with CNN cut in and said something like, and here's Tulsi Gabbard continuing to attempt to substantiate these outrageous claims that Obama had committed treasonous acts. And like, while she's talking, he's just talking over her, not letting her, not letting what she's saying be broadcasted. It's like, wow, that's not suspicious at all. It's like you're hiding something here.
I don't know, man. Listen, the bottom line is that whole thing stunk to high heaven. And people may be wondering, well, why didn't Trump find it during his first administration? Let's keep in mind he was dealing with a deep state back then. He was also fending off the impeachment calls. He was fending off, the constant the Russia collusion narrative in the Mueller report. He was not allowed when they instigated the Mueller report, because remember Pelosi had the gavel at the time. So when they instituted when Pelosi handed off to the DOJ and they instituted the Mueller report, the independent investigation, Trump could not get involved. Otherwise, it would be seen as tampering with an ongoing investigation. So there are things he couldn't do that was so frustrating, but I guarantee you he began to learn where the things could be found. And I think when Tulsi came in, I mean, she's been there for what, 4 months?
Yeah.
4 months. And she started opening drawers, looking in file cabinets, checking behind the broom closet. And next thing you know, she's turning up documents that, oh, by the way, this exists. And that's amazing.
Yeah. I'd like to see, like you said, see some people held accountable, but not hold my breath. But I think having press briefings and more documents coming out, hopefully, we'll see. Yeah.
And what I like is Tulsi is saying it like it is, but from what you've told me and from what little bits I've seen, it does not appear that she's up there railing against the machine. She's not filled with hyperbole and rhetoric. She's just laying it out. And oh, by the way, here's the receipts.
Yep.
And that's the way it needs to be.
Yep. And they tried to bait her too. The press did.
Oh, of course they did.
So,
of course they did. All right, man. Wow. Take a break right there. We'll take a break. We'll come right back and jump on into the dippers of the day. The commies are coming, y'all. The commies are coming. Are you ready? Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And they've been in the middle of two things. One is they have been seeking a merger with the Federal Elections Communications Commission, the FCC. It's an $8.4 billion merger with Skydance Media. And they also just this month agreed to settle a lawsuit that was filed by Trump over the 60 Minutes interview that was edited with Kamala Harris. So two things are going on. They settled the lawsuit with Trump. By the way, a lot of people think Trump got paid. He didn't. He said, guess what you get to do with it? You can donate it to my library foundation. So the Trump libraries. That's got to burn. And they'll probably put up a plaque and say, thank you to Paramount Global in the library, the Paramount Global wing of the Trump library. That's awesome. But yeah, so two things happened. They were looking for approval for their merger, an $8.4 billion merger with the FCC. Well, it's federal. So people believe that when they get the approval, that means that Trump gave them a little something. Hey, here's what we're going to do. You're going to get rid of Colbert. You got it? Yeah. Leave the gun, take the cannoli. I mean, that's where we are. They think that Trump is such a mafia don that he's going to go, I will approve the $8.4 billion merger if you will buy a wing in my library, and you will, oh, by the way, get rid of Colbert. It's ridiculous, but that's what the left believes. They absolutely believe that a show that was losing $40 million a year, a show whose ratings had plummeted by less than half of what it used to be, a show that did not have followership because it was so busy insulting half of America, or more than half of America, that there you go. Well, all right, so I've got a piece here from Daily Wire that makes a couple of great points. I'll just continue on before I get into who's saying what about other stuff. So the rise of Donald Trump. Daily Wire points out the rise of Donald Trump brought into the nightly shows the attacks on what amounts to attacks on over 77 million Americans every night. Every evening for years now, it says Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel subjected their audience to nonstop Trump bashing. Like he points out, most recently, a Colbert monologue talked about, and here's where I get to just say, oh boy, let's talk about Alabama. He says that a Colbert monologue, Trump sending the National Guard to California, he compared it to LBJ activating the National Guard during civil rights demonstrations in Alabama. Except that in that point, I'm sorry, the Guard was there to protect the protesters. Interesting. That's Colbert every night. Crickets. The only people who like that are the ones who lost the election. And the guy points out this article, and I agree with this. I'm willing to be entertained by a truly funny Trump joke. But the level of vitriol, I mean, it was obvious their disdain for the person that over half of American voters voted for was so deep he couldn't get out of it. His own Trump derangement syndrome is now sitting in a position of having crushed him. And oh, by the way, never forget that people don't mind tuning in for late night politics because the Gutfeld show on Fox is killing it. But you know what the difference is? First of all, Gutfeld's good. But secondly, people tune in expecting that. They tuned in for that. They tuned in to get some news and commentary with a bit of zing attached to it. They wanted that. When they go to things like late night with, Jimmy Kimmel or late night with Colbert, they're not looking for that. They're looking to see who his guest is that night. They're looking to see what actor is going to be there to try and pretend that they've got a big career going. They're going to look and see what band's going to show up and play a gig. They want to know the human interest stories. They don't want all the crap. Jimmy Kimmel's not happy, by the way, even though this is his competition.
Jimmy Kimmel is almost as bad as Colbert. I'd say his head's on the chopping block next, figuratively.
I would not be a bit surprised because I wouldn't be a bit surprised to also find out that his ratings are about the same.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, Outkick has an article that I just picked up. Outkick says, it's been a heck of a week. Stephen Colbert fired by CBS, NPR and PBS defunded, and Shane Gillis angering all the libs on a Disney-owned network. He said they just win after win after win. But then he says one person who's not pleased, Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel's response was, basically profanity-laced and says, blank all of y'all over there at CBS and all you Sheldons at CBS, he said. Oh, there's a zinger. I bet his script writers had to work on that one for him for a while. But y'all, they're not done. They're banding together. Let TDS unite us. We shall go forward. We shall not stop. Writers Guild. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right, just making common sense like a superpower. Jeremy from Madison says, To Mr. Democrat Representative, are you saying that guns are smarter than your constituents? Yes. Yes, that's what's happening. Thomas from Athens says, since Trump spent $400 million and counting, lawyers fighting lawfare from all sides, is there any way for him to recover any funds through the courts against these very wealthy conspirators? Yes, there are in some cases. There won't be in the criminal proceedings because that's not usually what happens unless you can show that it was what they call a malicious prosecution. And then some states, state laws may allow it, but these were federal crimes, I think. No, that's right, state. It was state. The so-called quote unquote 34 felony count conviction was a state court issue. So under New York state law, which I'm not sure, I'd have to read it, there is a possibility that he could, if he could prove that it was malicious prosecution, but the bar is high on that. As for the civil claims, yes, possibly. And the one in Atlanta with Fannie. Whatever happened to Fannie? Is Fannie still around? Fannie.
I couldn't tell you.
Okay. Her Fannie's gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, so malicious prosecution is about the only way on the criminal proceedings. And then in civil actions, if you're being sued, there's only certain times when you can actually claim your attorney's fees. And that's typically speaking, like if there's a contract that actually has a provision in the contract that allows it because both parties have already agreed in advance to do that. So don't know, but I doubt it. Bottom line was they sued the wrong guy, though, because he had the resources to stand up to it. Most people, listen, they know this. Most people couldn't afford to have defended all the things he defended. He's a billionaire, so he did. They thought he would back down, but he didn't. And I love that about the guy, too. Matt from Madison said, it's like that country song, a little less talk, a little more action is what we need. Okay. All right. There you go. Hey, I got to throw something else out there real quick. This is a total aside. I'm just chasing a bit of a rabbit here, but so this morning I got an email, and this happens a lot, but I'm on distribution for like all the press secretaries for the different elected officials. Senator Britt, Senator Tubble's staff, by the way, is prolific. They'll send out 2 or 3 a day. But got one this morning that said there would be a special press conference at 9 a.m. this morning Central Time with Senator Britt and Senator Tuberville together for a major announcement. And then it didn't happen. It was canceled for whatever reason. I don't know. I'm not saying that something like went wrong. It may have just been a scheduling issue. It may have been that, somebody else needed to be there and they couldn't yet, so they're rescheduling it. But the question is, what was it? I speculate that it was they were going to make an announcement about Space Command. I don't know that. I'm just going to go ahead and run with it. But I'm just telling you right now, I think it was very likely going to be Space Command being announced as coming to Huntsville. More to come on that. We'll find out as soon as they decide to reschedule whatever that was. So, okay, you want to speculate? As long as I'm just abusing the microphone here, I speculate it was Space Command, and they realized what they wanted was a representative from the Department of Defense there at the whole thing with them. Maybe even Pete Hegseth. There, I said it.
I think you're correct because Yaffe actually put up a Yellowhammer article today. I don't know if it was after it was canceled or before, but anyways, he was linking a interview he had with Katie Britt last week where she said that Space Command is imminent. In a matter of weeks, it will be announced. So I think it's fair to say that's what it was. And I think it's fair to say we'll get that announcement soon.
I would expect so. It's going to happen, by golly. I mean, get Space Command out of the state where they have recreational marijuana. Please, can we? Thank you very much. So number one of the Triple Dipper, the commies are coming. The left has gone so far to the left, they can't even see themselves anymore from the center. The left has literally jumped on into the communist agenda. Now, some might say they've been there for a while, not as overtly as they are now. Now they're like just declaring it. Now they're actually quoting Marx. I mean, it's gotten to the point of we are now in full-on kabuki theater of Marxism. I've got a piece that I pulled from August of last year. The Washington Times. This is former Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, who now works for Young Americans for Freedom, I believe. But he had a headline. He said, the Democratic Party is looking more and more like a Marxist regime. And it's true. So this is August of last year. Of course, it was leading up to the election. He's a Republican. He was writing in that regard. But everything he said is true. He said all the warnings of a Marxist regime are there. A political coup, That's the overthrow of Biden. Government control of the economy through price controls and heavy regulations. That's things like the EVs and all that that's being mandated as opposed to, just encouraged. Manipulation of government agencies. Absolutely. Think about the IRS. Think about the EPA, all of it. And the courts to punish political opponents. Think about lawfare. There was censorship. Oh, think about things like Facebook and, the social media debacle that we had with the Office of Disinformation, telling Facebook and Twitter what they could and could not print. Unwillingness to talk to independent media outlets. Oh, yeah, we know that for a fact. In fact, don't forget, you're talking about when CNN, was it CNN? No, it was ABC, it was CBS that edited the interview with Kamala Harris. Government determined outcomes. Oh, yeah. Think about things like the narrative is you will take the jab 2 weeks to quell the COVID virus. Make sure you're social distancing. Shut down your business non-essential. Oh, by the way, anybody who doesn't get the shot's bad. I mean, that was ridiculous. The government determined outcomes. Religious persecution, certainly it is. Christians have been on the like on the chopping block for the last several years. Grandmothers praying outside of abortion clinics, getting arrested, and the list goes on and on. So all that to say, those are all the kind of things you see coming through an actual Marxist regime or a communist country. Those are the former Soviet Union. That's Cuba. That's Venezuela. That's North Korea. I mean, all of this was so blatant, and this is before the election. But the reality is, this is not about an agenda where they have a better idea. We just think it's good to do these things. It's about making Americans more dependent on government. That's what communism ultimately does, is it makes Americans, it makes people far more dependent upon government. And once the government has its hooks in and you believe you can't get by without government assistance in some way, then if the government tells you to do something, you'll do it because you still need the thing. It's like an addict. Just give me a fix, man. Help me out with a little something, something. No, you got to do this first. And then they'll do it just to get the hit. That's the way government entitlement programs and government regulation and just big government in general works. That's also, oh, by the way, the foundations of communism. I'll tell you more about this in a minute. It's an education. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Guild. This is like the union of scriptwriters for late night TV and other things. The Writers Union wants the New York Attorney General Letitia James to probe why CNS canceled Late Show. You know what, though? It's Letitia James. She'll probably do it if she's not in jail. She has a little issue going on right now. Apparently there's something about, oh, I don't know, mortgage fraud.
Adam Schiff is in the same boat now as well.
Go figure. Isn't that kind of how they caught Al Capone? Oh, that was taxes.
Yeah, I believe it was taxes.
Taxes, mortgage.
Yeah, so, fraud is fraud.
Yeah. The late night show, the statement put out by CBS is, we consider Stephen Colbert irreplaceable and we'll retire the Late Show franchise. In other words, we're retiring his number. It's all going away. We're not going to find a replacement. It's just done. Well, said he and the broadcast will be remembered in the pantheon of greats that grace late night television. This is a purely financial decision against a challenging backdrop in late night. The Writers Guild, though, says, here's their quote, given Paramount's recent capitulation to President Trump. See, this is the Writers Guild. Their official statement names Trump as the reason why. The Writers Guild of America has significant concerns the Late Show's cancellation is a bribe, sacrificing free speech to curry favor with the Trump administration. In one sentence, they named Trump twice. The Writers Guild. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. But then Hollywood's getting involved. Oh, for the love. Really? Yes. Jamie Lee Curtis. Who? Yes, Jamie Lee Curtis. You know, the actress used to be famous. Jamie Lee Curtis. Do you know what I'm talking about? Jamie Lee Curtis?
No.
Like I said, Jamie Lee Curtis. Her words are, she's really excited to be one of the last guests that's going to be scheduled on Colbert.
Oh, it's this lady. Gosh.
Just look her up?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's not good.
Okay. And then she talks about NPR and her disdain for what she sees as Trump's efforts. So she's all about, She says they cut NPR and, public broadcasting. They're just trying to silence people. That won't work. It won't work. We'll just get louder. No, actually, you won't.
And people won't listen because you're not on TV anymore.
Nope, you're not. You're not. Listen, I got a little bit more on this. We'll wrap it up when I get back. Take some text messages. You want to text it in. What are your thoughts? Let me ask you this. How many of y'all sit around every night watching Stephen Colbert? I want to know how many ruffians in the world actually watch Colbert. Like, you look for it. Like, hey, Colbert's on. Do you do that? Or is it like a what kind of show to you? It's amazing to me how much misinformation is being spread by government. They accused us of misinformation, right? Remember, they had the whole office of disinformation that was going to be stood up. They had the backdoor way to silence us on social media. People would find out they'd been shadow banned. Remember that? But yet at the same time, look at how much misinformation is being spread by government. I mean, really. We're being told daily to believe that what we've seen and heard was not really what we saw and heard. The story broke last week that the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was releasing documents that clearly showed that Obama and his national security team, the whole cabal of them, I'm talking about Comey and Clapper and Brennan and Rice and McCabe, all of them, the whole national security team with Obama were actually the authors of the Russia collusion hoax. The PSYOPs mission of the century, the deception of the American mind writ large. Now, I'm not so foolish as to believe that politicians always tell the truth. We have spin doctors and press secretaries for a reason. Every politician wants their message to hit the mark, right? They want to resonate with the people to ensure that, the version of events that's being told is the one that they believe best suits their cause. I get that. To some degree, that's understandable. What I don't expect, though, what I loathe are lying lips, or in this case, a room full of lying lips, who apparently in December of 2016, right after Trump's first election, they chose to get together, that whole cabal again. They chose to get together and cook up a fabricated story that they could then run with for 4 whole years for no other purpose except to undermine the duly elected president of the United States. The so-called Russia collusion story. But now, guess what? Now the tide has turned. Yeah. It ain't no fun when the rabbit's got the gun, as the old saying goes. And the rabbit in this case is Trump himself, who defied all the odds, overcame all the lies, and outsmarted, outlawyered, outlived, and outlasted every one of them. Every lie that the left threw at him is now back. He's now back in the same seat, only this time he knows exactly what stones to turn over. He knows the tricks. He knows the places where documents are hidden. And suddenly the lying liars are standing there exposed for all the world to see. They thought they were so smart, right? They thought they had it going on. They were so smugly sure of themselves. Silly peasants. We will tell them to eat cake while we do all the things we know we must do. The conspirators, they sat in their ivory tower full of their own self-importance, and they are now naked before the whole world. But they did this lying in so many ways. I mean, there were so many untruths. The left, they never know when enough's enough. And yeah, now they're standing there naked in front of the world. Reminds me of the old fable of the great and vain emperor who loved to lord himself over the people of his kingdom. He called out for new clothes, only the best. Bring me some special tailors. So 2 men came, and they could read the room. They knew the emperor's vanity would make them rich if they could play their cards right. So they told the emperor that they would make him the finest clothes from very rare and magic cloth. And they announced with great fanfare that the only ones who could see the clothes were to be known throughout the land, or the ones who could not see the clothes would be known throughout the land as fools and idiots. Well, of course, nobody wanted to draw the ire of the vain emperor. So everybody pretended they could see the special clothes, and they told the emperor how marvelous he looked. But the truth is, the emperor was buck naked, had nothing there. They were fake clothes. Even the emperor didn't want people to think that he was the fool or the idiot, so he pretended that he had good clothes on, and he went strutting around naked, calling for a great parade. Off he went, parading in front of all the kingdom. Just said solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 already. Hour number 2 on Hump Day. We're going to get you all the way to go home time on a Friday afternoon eventually, but right now it's Hump Day. I'm in Dipper number 1. I'm calling it The Commies Are Coming. And The Commies Are Coming, I took that title. I will go ahead and give credit where credit's due, right off of an article on the top of townhall.com. Dateline yesterday. Townhall.com, piece written by Mark Lewis. The title of it is The Commies Are Coming. And he gives you a thought-provoking series of reasons why you might think so. So I'm going to go into in a minute talking about some of the candidates and the different politicos that are out there and the things they're saying in the Democrat circles right now. But let me just do this. I'm going to do what Mark Lewis did in his article. I'm going to give you a series of quotes that are attributed to Karl Marx himself. And I want you to tell me if you have pictured this happening through Democrat liberal leftist means over the last, I don't know, call it the last 4 years. How about that? You can go back the last 10 years if you want to. But I mean, I guarantee you when I read some of these out, some of y'all are going to absolutely be able to picture when it happened. Like here's the first one. Quote from Karl Marx. My object is to dethrone God and destroy capitalism. Think about where our economy's been. Think about the fact that God has been thrown out of the public square. Think about the fact that liberals don't want you to pray in schools. They don't want you to have Bibles in schools. They don't want you to be able to pray in front of an abortion clinic. You certainly can't do that. That's wrong. And destroy capitalism? How about government price controls? How about destroying the free market? How about 40-year inflation highs? Think about it. I'm going without notes here. I'm just telling you things that I can remember right off the top of my head. How about number 2? Take away a nation's heritage and they are more easily persuaded. Oh, really? You know, there was a time in my life when, as the TV went off at night, it played the national anthem. Gone are the days. Now what you're looking at is starting with things like kneeling on the football field and all that kind of stuff when the national anthem is playing. You can go down to things like the 1619 Project. You can think about critical race theory. You can think about claims that we are systemically racist as a nation. You can talk about, you know, the different privileges and intersectionalities and destroying people, and then getting mad when the American flag flies, but they want the rainbow flag to be painted on the streets. I mean, go think through what you've seen over the last few years. Take away a nation's heritage, and they are more easily persuaded. How about this one? The education of all children from the moment they can get along without a mother's care shall be in state institutions. Well, that's easy to find. The liberal left hates private schools and they hate school choice. They don't want parents to have a say. They want to know for a fact that they've got control of the narrative that your kids hear every day in the state-funded institution. And that's absolutely a quote from Karl Marx. How about this one? The meaning of peace is the absence of opposition to socialism. The meaning of peace is the absence of opposition to socialism. The absence of opposition to socialism. Think about the summer of love, the riots, the things we put up with, the lawfare, the absolute chaos that we saw over the last few years, the disruption of civil society during COVID, and how the left would do things like demand that you close your churches and not sit on beaches by yourself, or you could be arrested, while they would go off to, you know, have fancy dinners without their masks on. Certain businesses declared non-essential, and then other ones, okay, you can run those. How about this one? A heavy or progressive or graduated income tax is necessary for the proper development of communism. Quote from Karl Marx. Have you ever met a Democrat who didn't like taxes? Unfortunately, you've probably met a few Republicans that way too. How about this one? Communism abolishes eternal truths. It abolishes all religion, all morality. Instead of constituting them on a daily basis, it therefore acts in contradiction to all past historical experience. I mean, y'all, I could go on and on. But these are quotes from the actual guy, Karl Marx. This is the founder of true Marxist communism. And yet what we're looking at right now is you've got people like this Zoran Mandani, who's running to be the mayor of one of the biggest cities in the world, New York City. who espouses the exact same things. I mean, he espouses things like, oh, let's get rid of private property. He espouses the idea of government price controls and destroying the free market. He espouses these things. Well, I got a piece here also from Town Hall. Town Hall was killing it when I was researching this issue. Town Hall, Dateline about 4 days ago. A Quinnipiac University poll revealed that congressional Democrats, that's just, up on the Hill, congressional Democrats have a minuscule 19% approval rating. Whew, that's like non-existent. Earlier in the week, a Harvard Caps Harris poll similarly found that the party, Democrat Party as a whole, has an approval rating of just 40%. So they're sucking wind right now in public opinion. Says, but the problem for Democrats is structural. It requires a rethink, a reboot from soup to nuts. Barack Obama's winning 2008 political coalition comprising racial and ethnic minorities, young people, and highly educated whites has completely withered. Obamaism is dead. Democrats have got to reconcile themselves to that demise. That's the article. But then he goes on to say, in order for the Democrat Party to actually come back up, they're going to have to do something that gets past all their wokeness, all their intersectionalities, all their obsessions with critical race theory and all the things about destroying our heritage and our history. They're going to have to, because that's the reason why their polls are so in the tank. And so yet they appear to be incapable of doing that. That's the problem. Democrats are so vested and steeped in their rhetoric. Steeped. Think about what steeped means. Steeped means it's soaked in. Steeped means that it has literally been something you've been like just like dwelling in. You've been ruminating on it. You've been like soaking it in, absorbing it. You've been soused in it, slathered in it. You're steeped. Zohran Mamdani is a clear example of the fact that the Democrat left is moving further left, despite the fact that the polls show that the people are getting tired of it. The 33-year-old Zohran Mamdani, recent winner of the New York City's much-discussed Democrat mayoral primary, is our case in point. He's a Ugandan-born Shiite Muslim Mamdani Democrat socialist. Put that on a bumper sticker. Hi, I'm Ugandan-born Shiite Muslim Zohran Mamdani, a Democrat socialist. Vote for me. But he's also a full-fledged communist. So he won the primary on a totally radical platform. By the way, if you're wondering why New York City matters to everything, New York City is one of those bellwether places. As goes New York City, so goes the politics in other places in many ways. When New York City does certain things, Democrats and other places sit up and take note. New York City is also somewhat of a harbinger of things to come because they tend to get there first. Mamdani ran on a generally radical platform. Things like support for citywide free bus rides. Okay, so how are you going to pay for the transit system? I don't know. We just want it all to be free. City-owned grocery stores. Well, that's going to go over well. City-owned grocery stores. What? Can you imagine what happens when the government owns the grocery store? You're talking about food lines. You're talking about price fixing. You're talking about the free market's done. A full rent freeze on certain low-income units. Rent freeze. Now, I get it. Rent can get pretty high in the big cities especially, but here's the deal. It's still the market. And if you tell somebody who owns a piece of property they can't charge rent past a certain point, guess what? If they want to charge rent too high, they won't get any renters. But for the government to come in and do price fixing, people are going to go ahead and just abandon their properties. Why would I keep paying the mortgage on this building if I can't rent it for what it takes to pay the mortgage? $30 minimum wage. A $30 minimum wage. Why did I go to law school? I have no idea. A $30 minimum wage. What would that be, by the way? You got a calculator over there? Let's do 40 hours a week times 30. Well, I can already tell you what that's going to wind up being. It's $1,200 a week.
$1,200.
Yeah, it's $1,200 a week. So we're at 4. We're almost at $60,000 a year for minimum wage.
Yeah, to work at McDonald's.
To flip burgers. Just so you know, minimum wage jobs were never designed to be careers. They weren't. Gone are the days, though, because the minimum wage jobs, the burger flipping jobs, that used to be the summer work for high school kids. That used to be the thing you did to fill a gap. That was the thing you did after hours to try and, pick up the extra money to pay off the credit card or whatever. And I've done plenty of the stuff. I have. I've worked in everything from fast food to janitorial to, delivering pizza. I've done all of it. But the reality is the minimum wage job was never designed to be the career. It was a stepping stone. It was a bridge. It was a gap filler. But not with a liberal leftist, because a true Marxist, you know what? A true Marxist wants to make sure that everyone has the living wage. The living wage. Has any Marxist ever figured out what happens when you mandate price increases on salaries and benefits? I'll tell you what happens. People get laid off, businesses close down, they scale back, or they automate, and people lose their jobs anyway. You're going to do that, you're going to crush the soul of your local economy. But he hadn't figured that out. He's also, by the way, for the abolition of private property. One of the oldest, most sacrosanct pieces of the law. If I'm a lawyer, so I'll tell you right now, some of the most archaic language we use in the practice of law occurs in regards to real estate. It dates back thousands of years. We're talking about going back to the Magna Carta. We're talking about things that have been put in place that establish property rights as a general practice in Western nations, which was inculcated into our U.S. system of justice and the practice of law. And yes, we use archaic language in property because it's one of the oldest forms of law that we have. It's also just considered one of those greatest things about free society, that people can own a piece of property. And yet Mamdani wants to go ahead and, let's go ahead and get rid of private property. Who would own it? If it's not private anymore, what's the other thing? It's public property. Oh, the government owns it. This is awesome. I'm telling you, the commies are coming. I got some more examples. We come back from this, I will give you some stuff to think about. But yes, watch the left, watch them, and think about the actual quotes from Karl Marx, and then compare it to what you're seeing and hearing and what they're doing now. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. With nobody willing to speak out for fear of being branded a fool, except for finally one small child in the story. One child. One child had the honest audacity to shout, "The emperor has no clothes." And at that point, the jig was up. The fool was the emperor himself, who suddenly realized he was in fact naked as a jaybird in front of all of his subjects. And the other fools were the people who acted more like sheeple. They just went along with it for fear of getting sideways with the emperor. Does that sound familiar? We just had the entire Obama cabal just try to do that. They tried to pretend they had something going on. They played it up, and there were so many people who did not want to speak out when they should have. And now we're starting to see the tide turn. Now we're actually finding the documents that have been squirreled away in a drawer somewhere. Now ask yourself, which character in that story would you be? Would you be the emperor? Would you be the fearful subjects? Would you be the child with the brashness to point out the obvious? Don't let it happen. Look, the only one you want to be in that story is the child who's willing to speak truth to power. If you know something, then you know it. Understand it and be willing to speak up about it. Because if wrong is wrong, if right is right, if good is good, and bad is bad, then stand on it at every level of governance, every level. I mean, like at the local level. How many times do we hear that critical race theory laced curricula are good for your children in the local libraries? What? School boards at the local level can allow transgenders in sports. Defunding the police or setting up sanctuary policies in your cities, those are good, aren't they? How about state? Like in Alabama, you need more casinos because they bring jobs. You really wanted that gas tax, as evidenced by the fact that you're still driving. Your business, well, it was non-essential in the pandemic, but the one down the street, it was very essential. We had to have that one, but not yours. And oh, by the way, you don't need school choice. You just need more of the same old, same old. Or how about the national level? The southern border was under control. Really? It's a really good thing for the environment to be able to ban gas stoves. Stop it. Climate change is the national security issue, not China. Oh, no, by the way, we're taking the lead in Ukraine for as long as it takes, but don't ask about our strategy. We don't have to have a strategy. Oh, did I forget, by the way, at the national level, men can give birth and children can be surgically altered to be other than their birth sex. We're finally starting to see the tide turn on all this. You silly, silly people. These are the emperor's wishes, and the emperor knows best. They know things we don't know. So get in line, make no waves, deny that you know what you really know. Yeah, here's the bottom line, you guys. You can be gaslighted if you let it happen. Accountability starts when people are willing to say, that's not true, and point out the obvious realities that they've been experiencing, seeing, and hearing for themselves. There's a great story in the book of Acts, chapters 3 and 4. It's actually one of my favorite passages of scripture. Had a really profound impact on me personally. It was not long after the crucifixion and the resurrection. The new church was growing rapidly. There were religious leaders who were just beside themselves because they thought they got rid of this Jesus thing, and now here it is growing. And then one day on the way to the temple, Peter and John healed a man. That's it. They healed a man. Everybody saw it. But instead of celebrating, the leaders of the day had him arrested. They were arrested by the temple guard, dragged in before the religious leaders who demanded that they stop. Why? Because it was rocking their power boat. That's why. They were supposed to set truth, not these grassroots activists. They were the ones who controlled the truth, not these rabble. But it didn't fly. Peter and John, the people, they were not going to be gaslighted. And in Acts chapter 4, we're told that Peter stood and looked them in the eye and very calmly and very rationally said this. Here's the quote. It says, when they saw the courage of Peter and John and realized they were unschooled, ordinary men, they were astonished, and they took note these men had been with Jesus. But since they could see the man who had been healed standing right there before them, there was nothing that they could say. So they ordered him to withdraw, and they conferred amongst themselves. What are we going to do with these men, they asked. Everybody living in Jerusalem knows they performed a notable sign. We can't deny it. But to stop this thing from spreading any further, I'll tell you what, we'll warn them, speak no longer in the name of this Jesus fellow. And then they called him in again, and they commanded them not to speak or teach at all in the name of Jesus. They had just healed a man, y'all. Everybody saw it. Everybody knew it. They didn't want it to be talked about. They said, deny what you've seen. But Peter and John, here's the deal. Verse 19. Peter and John replied, which is right in God's eyes, to listen to you or to him? You be the judge. But as for us, we cannot stop speaking about what we have seen and heard. In other words, we see truth, and that's all that matters. Did you hear that? They had no special training. They had no special degrees. They had no formal speaking, no fancy clothes. They were just solid, ordinary folks who knew what they had seen and heard, and no amount of bluster or accusation or gaslighting of the facts was going to stop them from standing up and speaking about their own experiences and calling out truth when they see it. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just bulletproof influence, man. Bulletproof influence. That's what I'm saying. I got a bunch of text messages, which I will get to very shortly. But let me continue with this thread that I'm on, this dipper. Commies are coming. So New York City Councilwoman, I got a piece here from Fox, and this came out just a couple days ago. New York City Councilwoman, she's actually a Republican because they do have some. It's like California. They do have some. They really do. But her name is Ina Vernikov, and she grew up she literally has, as a child, she lived behind the Iron Curtain in the Soviet Union. Her family immigrated here after the fall of the Soviet Union, but she was born there in the former Soviet Union. She came to the United States as a child, but she remembers standing in lines with her grandfather just to be able to buy a bottle of milk. And she made the comparison, as she sits on the New York City Council, she made the comparison between Mondani's policies and what she remembers from communist Russia. And she's telling everybody he's saying the exact same things. I mean, will they see it? I don't know. I can only hope. By the way, I love New York City, just like I love California. I do. I used to live in California for a period of time as a kid. It's a beautiful state. Goodness. I love New York City. It's one of those places that Charlene and I have had a chance to travel to a little bit. I go back and forth there periodically. I was up there the other day for that CNN appearance, going back again pretty soon. But yeah, I love these places. I do not want to see them go under a pure Marxist rule. I get it when there's going to be a mayor who's more liberal than me, or maybe even just a plain Democrat. Eric Adams is not my first choice, but he's a whole lot better than this Mondani guy. But then you look at Minneapolis. What is happening with Minneapolis, by the way? Have we lost Minneapolis? Is that still an American city? It is, isn't it?
I think it's actually Somalia now.
I think it is. So the mayor of Minneapolis, the same guy who oversaw the city during the 2020 Black Lives Matter riots and all that, has now lost the backing of the Democrat Party to a Somali-born socialist. The guy's name is Omar Fateh. Omar Fateh, 35 years old. A Somali-born 35-year-old is going to run one of the major Midwestern cities if he wins.
By the way, apparently kneeling at George Floyd's casket and weeping doesn't win you an election, because that's what the guy did who lost.
The other guy?
Yes.
Wow. What a putz. Fateh, who is the first Somali American and Muslim to serve in the Minnesota State Senate, received more than 60% of the vote from delegates. There were issues with electronic balloting and all kinds of problems, but nonetheless, he prevailed at the ballot box. And we're looking at a guy right now who has been open about the fact that he loves his nation, he loves his home nation of Somalia, and would like to live there again one day. In the meantime, he wants to be the mayor of Minneapolis, and he is an avowed socialist. And that's the guy they're talking about putting in. But these are all happening around the nation. Elise Stefanik just recently warned, came out 4 days ago, just recently warned that Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are propping up the Marxist communist wing of that party. She criticized prominent New York Democrats, Chuck Schumer, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, accusing them of supporting the Marxist communist wing, says conservative Daily News.net. She called for strong moral economic leadership to stop the mass exodus from New York under Democratic rule. So what she's pointing out is New York's about to be dying in a pile. If you look at things like, just some of the anecdotal stuff, but like even things like, go look at the U-Haul report every year. If you've never seen it, go to U-Haul, the trailer people, go to U-Haul report. And you can see the U-Haul report once a year, and they look and see how many states or which states had the highest number of one-way rentals out of the state. And it almost always corresponds with basically a loss in population. California had the highest. New York is one of the highest. And I'm just telling you right now, what we're watching is the demise of big cities, and it does not come because of right-wing policies. It becomes part of the left-wing policies. And the commies are coming because they are literally putting up some of the most leftist candidates that have ever been, brought to the public square, ever. And this Zohran Mamdani guy is a classic example. And I said it earlier, New York City is oftentimes a harbinger of more things to come. It's like a condensed area of things that when they happen there, other Democrats around the nation take a look and go, oh, wow. And they start basically trying to model after it. It winds up being a leader in the Democrat Party. If they elect Zohran Mamdani, you wait and watch. There'll be somebody like him going to Chicago. There'll be somebody like him going to, name a big city. You'll find it. But you're gonna wind up seeing some of our major cities more and more having not just left-wing Democrats, which, by the way, almost feel centrist compared to some of these guys. You're going to find avowed communists bringing pure socialism with them, openly espousing it, even quoting Marx like Mamdani does, and trying to take over true American cities. The commies are coming. I'm just telling you. That's not an alarmist thing. That's what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. All right, folks, we're going to come right back. I got some text messages to cut. You guys are some texting machines. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Right. You know who we are as a people. You know who we are as a nation. You know the values that you hold dear. You know why we stand up for the national anthem and why we kneel for God. And you also know, when you see the news of the day at home and abroad, how to measure that so-called news against those things that you've seen and heard. And if the emperor has no clothes, well, tell him loudly, because ruffians are not sheeple. believe the interview we just had with Mike Durant, author of In the Company of Heroes, the pilot who was shot down in Black Hawk Down. He became a national icon, an international icon really, as images of him being held captive in Somalia were transmitted around the world. The way he tells his story, though, is as amazing as his story. So sit back, enjoy your time, hear about things that you're going to think about for the rest of your life after this discussion we're going to have with Mike Durant on the Just Right podcast. Yeah, let's do a show.
1, 2, 3, hey!
Hey, Mike Durant, thanks for being here today.
My pleasure.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I'm honored to have you. And listen, I'm going to run through just a quick intro of who you are so folks know who I got sitting across from me. All
Sure.
right? Some of this is going to be unpacked in more detail, but I know for a fact you were born in New Hampshire, but you call Alabama home, have for a number of years. 22 years active military. First enlisted, I think, in 79?
You got it.
Weren't you a Spanish linguist?
I was.
Yeah.
And don't ask me to speak Spanish. They taught us to, the school that I went to, the focus was to just be able to understand it, not speak it. So I can still understand a little bit, but I'm not a very good speaker.
Did some intercept work down there in Panama, right?
I did.
Yeah. I got family ties there. My grandfather was post commander. It was at Corzal, I think it was one of the years ago. Became a warrant officer in '83, which I still don't understand the warrant officer mafia. I never knew whether you guys got saluted or what was going on with that. But anyway, warrant officer in '83, flight school, Fort Rucker. 5 years later, you were selected for the elite 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, the Night Stalkers, which we're going to talk about in a lot of detail. 3 distinguished flying crosses, Bronze Star with a V device, Purple Heart, and fairly rare in modern times, a Prisoner of War medal. And then you retired as a CW4, am I right? Chief Warrant Officer 4?
That's
Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. This show goes from like Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that lovely little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the line from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. That's just the radio. And then there's so many of y'all out there in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web and watching us, live streaming the show every single day on places like X and YouTube and Facebook and Rumble. And, oh, by the way, our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then a ton of y'all podcast the show and catch it after the fact. So all said and done, what I'm saying is we know all of y'all are out there and we know where you are and you mean the world to us and we thank you. So I try to say this like 2 or 3 times every show. We thank you for making this worthwhile. I got to get a few text messages real quick, and I will do that. Mark from Red Bay says, when Colbert comes on, my wife and I either change the channel or turn the TV off and go to bed. Okay, that was yesterday, but thank you very much. I appreciate it. Bev from Madison says, it's an off-topic thing, so I will get back to that later on, but thank you very much. You can see what she's talking about. And maybe you can advise her. Bama Grant from Huntsville says Democrats are stuck on stupid. That's a pretty quick summary, and you're right. Rap from Athens says, I remember the TV sign off with the jet fighter and and slip the silvery bonds, I believe it was. Yes, I do too. That was good times. By the way, you will be heartened to know that in the movie theaters on military installations, they still play the national anthem, which I think is cool. Wild Bill from Somerville. Wild Bill. Hadn't heard from him in a while. Wild Bill says, the commies are coming? Sounds like a new title for the movie, The Russians Are Coming. Okay, that works. Brian from Harvest says, the Democrats' argument with the Obama situation is presidential. How is treason an official act of the president? No good point. Dave from Capshaw again says, looks like many U.S. cities are going Muslim like all the large cities in England. Well, there are some large enclaves, absolutely, of immigrant Muslims that are literally, some of them are wanting to put Sharia law into place. And then Paul from Athens, Alabama says, forgotten are the 70,000 Somalians that Obama airlifted to Minnesota in his time as president. This Minnesota political fiasco is the fruit. Yep, that's where we got Ilhan Omar. Just saying.
Do you mind if I add one more thing to the? I know
Pray
we want to
tell.
move on.
Pray tell, what do you have?
But I just wanted to add on to the Mamdani stuff. Of you mentioned how we got another Minnesota coming up, and there's going to be more and more. I will say, there's a reason that they are popping up, and there's a crisis. And like I said, I won't go on and on, but it's something I'm very passionate about. There's a crisis in the younger generations of. I mean, I think I saw the average age of a homeowner, first time home buyer, is 38 years old. Like, the economy for the younger generation is just getting worse and worse. And that's where these Mamdanis pop up, because socialism all of a sudden sounds appealing.
Oh, yeah.
And
Free stuff.
I wonder if, the GOP right now is in control of the White House and both chambers of Congress. And I worry, and I'm not saying I know what the solutions are, but I just worry that as a party, we're not paying enough attention to that, and at least trying to offer up solutions to, improve the situation, the housing crisis and such with young people. I mean, I don't know. It's like, I don't know when I'm gonna be able to afford a home. It's like, hopefully sometime soon. But I feel like most people feel like the American dream is not very obtainable with this system. And that's where radicalism, comes up. So I think it's something to be aware of. And I hope we're paying enough attention and actually, as a party, making an effort to fix that problem. Because then that's where socialism and radicalism goes nationwide.
And that, what you just described, is exactly why the Biden era, they were so committed to the idea of like paying off student loans, because they were trying to give free stuff to a generation, as opposed to giving them a means. They were giving them a bailout.
Yeah.
But then that creates a dependency. And so I totally agree. And yeah, home ownership is part of the property ownership. But then you got Mamdani wanting to get rid of property ownership in general. So, if you already can't buy a house, then why do you care if people are losing their private property rights? And if you're already not, having the institutions of education provide you a true meaning of civics in the United States, then you don't care about things like constitutional rights, and you just watch those things go away and you just don't care.
Yeah. And Charlie Kirk did a long podcast this week with Tucker on exactly this, and said that he'll talk to GOP senators and they're just like aloof, like, I don't know there's a problem. And that's concerning. So I just hope we don't let it get to the point where Mamdani just starts nationwide stuff like Minnesota, and therefore
I think you're going to see more Mamdanis. If he gets elected, I think you're going to see more Mamdanis. Although I will say this, I think Mamdani, you'll see a mass exodus of the middle class and the upper class out of New York City, because they won't want to live there, and they'll be the ones with the means to leave. And as he begins to co-opt property rights and do things, you're going to see businesses shutting down. You see people moving out, relocating, and some of them will be right outside the borders, just to because they still drive in for work, but they'll be right outside the borders. And it's amazing. All right, tell you what, I got to do something. I gotta run the gamut. I got about 25 minutes before we go to the top of the hour and move into the Grand Council. So I'd research the show sometimes, and I find stuff. I'm like, look at the wokeness. How much wokeness can there be? Where is the end of the wokeness? I don't know. And that means at some point I realize, holy cow, I've got a pile of it. I've got a buffet. I've got a veritable plethora, a vast cornucopia, a charcuterie, if you will, of wokeness. That means it's time for another round of adventures in woke world.
Adventures in woke world.
Hey, you'll be happy to know, by the way, that they're not forgetting George Floyd. Oh, no, can't do that. So first of all, there's where'd it go? Here, I got the part of my stack. Let me reach down here. George Floyd comes up twice in today's woke world. Oh, goodness. Phil, find the article. You had it in your hands, but I changed the order of my documents around. Here it is. You've got one professor out in Texas at the University of Houston named David McAnally, who is asking for a renaming of the university to George Floyd University. I'm pretty sure the alumni are going to have something to say about that. University of Houston. I'm sorry, wasn't George Floyd from Minnesota? Is that what it was?
Minnesota.
Minneapolis? Yeah. So I'm pretty sure this is not going to fly. But he says, we would open the university up in such a way that it becomes a resource to the broader community. And I can tell you with great confidence, in the 3rd Ward of Houston, that means that we will be pointed out that Floyd grew up in the 3rd Ward and went to listen, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But the fact is, they can't let go. The George Floyd incident that occurred is still one of their harbinger moments. It's still one of their grandest moments of all time. They were able to co-opt like half of corporate America and take over whole cities and burn down city blocks without any chance of any kind of repercussions. They even had any number of different places around the nation like named for Black Lives Matter and all the things that happened in the wake of that. Good Lord, that summer of love. And now they want to name a university after it. Well, I'm saying that's going to fail, but I'm interested in the fact that it is even being talked about. How about this one? Adventures in Woke World. Here's a headline that when you read it, you have to read it twice because you're not sure. Queer San Francisco bookstore. Okay, first of all, there are queer San Francisco bookstores? You mean there's bookstores that's their focus? Can they stay in business? Is there that much business that you can be a queer bookstore and it's anyway?
In San Francisco.
Apparently. Queer San Francisco bookstore pulls Harry Potter series after J.K. Rowling launches Okay, so last I checked, Harry Potter is not a queer book, right? It's not designed for the whatever they consider the queer lifestyle to be.
Really.
It's a kid's adventure story. It's a fantasy fiction thing. Harry Potter. J.K. Rowling dared to launch a women's legal fund. That's all it was. Why do they care? What? Sell books. Just go sell books. But woke world is always so wrapped up in agendas that they cannot forget. They cannot remember that they are really there to do something like, I don't know, in this case, sell books. It's like Starbucks, just sell coffee. It's like Colin Kaepernick. Would you please just play football? At some point, you look at him and go, you have one job. In this case, your job is to sell books. But yes, the booksmith on Haight Street, there's a name, announced on June 10th that it was no longer carrying J.K. Rowling's books. First of all, I got to say, why is this even a story? But the quote is, here's a quote. As a group of queer booksellers, we also had our adolescence shaped by wizards and elves. Look at us. It's obvious. If you or someone you love wants to dive into the world of Harry Potter, we suggest by doing so. Oh, God, listen, you can't make this stuff up. This is almost pitiful. I'm moving on to the next story.
Almost pitiful?
It's okay. That was levels of pitiful.
Yeah.
That was layers. That was pounds of pitiful. How about this one? Did you see, by the way, this story dates back to a couple weeks ago. Did you, JP, did you see the Jaguar ad, the Jaguar car ad that was just, I think it was actually a Super Bowl ad.
It was a Super Bowl ad, yes.
It was most obnoxious, weird, out there, what did it have to do with cars ad? Had all these, hermaphrodites. You can't tell if they're male or female, which was the intent. And they're all dressed like something out of the Hunger Games. And they're all just walking around with blank expressions and neutral, and then bright colors. And I don't know. It had nothing to do with cars.
It was bizarre, to say the least.
It
yes.
was. New York Post reports as of a couple of weeks ago, Jaguar sales in Europe have now plunged a shocking 97.5%. Following their botched rebrand that included a commercial featuring men in skirts to announce its upcoming pivot toward an all-electric fleet. But the cars have yet to arrive in dealerships. So it goes on to say the luxury British automaker registered just 49 vehicles in Europe in April. 49, compared with 1,900 in the same month last year. So Jaguar has now become the Bud Light of cars, is what it sounds like. Can they? Oh, it even says that. I just realized it says that down. So the uproar of woke ads was likened to Bud Light's bizarre 2023 partnership with transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney, which led to a boycott of America's best-selling beer and damaged the brand severely. So you've got Jaguar, which has been known for performance and luxury for years. It's one of those, top-line brands. They decided to come out and say, we're taking everything electric. And oh, by the way, we're super woke. How do you like us now? Men in skirts. It's all good. Who is in charge of this advertising? I don't know, but they just dropped 97.5% in sales. You can't make this stuff up. Good Lord.
They're probably making another ad right now, though, as they speak.
They probably are. Because, they tend to go. Although I will say this, Bud Light figured it out.
They did, yes.
Bud Light had
They made a big comeback.
They fired the person who did it, and they came back and said, "Yeah, we're done with that."
They got
And
Shane
thank you
Gillis
for-
and Post Malone in commercials now.
yes, they do.
They're back. They're back with what their audience is.
And Peyton Manning.
Yes.
Yeah, they're back. They're trying to be back. Now they still not come all the way back. So here's one for you. New York Post. I hold it in my calloused former paratrooper hands. New York Post. Minneapolis. Why is it Minneapolis, man? I think Minneapolis is the new San Francisco.
The new Somalia.
Okay, yeah. The Minneapolis Healthcare Network, which includes the hospital where George Floyd was declared dead, okay, is mandating that thousands of employees sit through a woke training video that includes a flow chart of who's allowed to say the N-word. There's rules. There's rules about using the N-word. I did not know this. I thought this was like, I mean,
Oh yeah.
I've seen people like get away with it, and it's kind of generally known that like you can get away with it in certain venues, but I didn't know they were going to. There's PowerPoint slides, JP. Look, I got them right here. There's flow charts. Can you see this on the camera?
Yeah, it's pretty.
There's flow charts that tell you when you're allowed to say the N-word and when you're not. And so here, can I say the N-word? Well, first, which best describes you? Are you white? Are you a person of color but not black? Or are you black or mixed with black? Okay. If you are white or a person of color but not black, you cannot say the N-word. And then there's some caveats to that. Not even while singing along to a song. Not even if it ends in an A instead of an ER. What? And there's no excuses. And that's literally the flow chart. I'm looking at it. That's the flow. But if you fall on the other side, it says, if you are black or mixed with black, it's your choice whether you want to say it or not.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
I don't think they've heard about the First Amendment. Now, I don't recommend the use of the word.
Exactly.
I am not advocating for the use of the N-word. But I look at this and go, okay, they just gave an entire presentation, multiple slides, and they literally told people, some of you are allowed to say certain things and some of you are not. And I don't think they understand that that's a complete violation of the First Amendment.
That is bizarre. I mean, but that is kind of common knowledge in my generation of that. That's the rules, apparently. So
they also, by the way, they have a whole slide on inclusive language. I want to make sure you understand, JP, as we sit here and work together every day, there are certain ways you can say things and certain ways you cannot. All right. Like, don't say that's so crazy. You're allowed to say that's ridiculous. Don't say we need to have a powwow. You can say we need to have a meeting. Don't say the peanut gallery always has something to say, because people may have their opinions, and that's, peanut gallery. I don't know. Peanut allergies? I'm not sure what's happening there. Don't say he's a computer guru, because guru could be interpreted as, I don't know, you're Hindu phobic. I don't know what that is.
Hindu phobic.
Hindu phobic, I guess. He's a computer expert. Listen, all this is real, man. These are slides that are being used in a presentation in Minneapolis. But the one that gives me the biggest kick is when you're allowed to say the N-word and when you're not.
Yeah, that didn't really need a presentation.
That's
kind of common knowledge.
All you got to do is watch the Comedy Central channel, and you'll figure that out pretty quick. All right, what else have I got before I go to the break? Oh, are you going to let me go on like this?
Yeah.
Take me to
I
a
guess
break.
so. It's your show.
Daggum. All right, we'll go to a break. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, Adventures in Woke World. Don't be using that N-word like that. You're the wrong color. Didn't you know that?
2 DFCs.
2 DSCs. Yeah. Well, okay, just 2. Got your undergrad and your master's from Embry-Riddle, is that right?
That's correct.
And built a successful defense contracting firm, Pinnacle Solutions, which you've retired from now. And you're married, and most importantly, you've had 6 kids.
We do.
Got your own basketball team.
Yeah, with some bench.
Well, good enough. Well, hey, thanks for being on the Just Right podcast. Appreciate you.
Again, my pleasure. I do always enjoy time spent with you. I think, we certainly have some common history, and you get it. And it's kind of nice to talk to people who get it, because when you talk to people who don't get it, it's a little bit frustrating, and you got to get drilled down into areas you feel like it's tedious, but with you, that's not the case.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much. And we'll have to make sure we don't slip into acronyms or something like that.
Well, that is easy to do, and then you can lose a lot of folks that way. But I've gotten pretty good at trying to avoid that.
Well, let me ask you this. I want folks to get to know who you are as much as your story, because your story is amazing. I've got your book sitting right here in the Company of Heroes. I read it years ago, and I've had a copy on my shelf. In fact, I think I told you before the show, my son nabbed it. He's stationed down at Benning, so he's got it with him, so I had to get another copy for today. But let me ask you, how did it start with you in the military? You're a kid in New Hampshire. Why the military? I mean, what happened there that said, that's where I want to lead my life?
So, I characterize myself as a blue collar kid. I mean, working parents, we were certainly not poor, but we weren't really well off either. And never saw myself as necessarily college material. I did fairly well in school when I tried, but I wasn't necessarily motivated to go to college. And I lived in a paper mill town, and a lot of people went to work in the mill. And there's nothing wrong with that. We need people to do that. That's, if that's what you want to do. But I just couldn't see myself doing that for the rest of my life. And when I was about 14, and it's about the time you start thinking about, what am I going to do when I get out of college? Doesn't keep you up at night, but, you start pondering that kind of stuff. I had a major turning point in my life. I went on a helicopter flight with a friend of the family.
No kidding.
His name is Joe Brigham. He was a warrant officer in the National Guard. He also had his own business. And as I found out later, I wasn't the only young teenager that he ever did this with. He took a few of us up that he wanted to try to inspire, and it absolutely impacted me. I mean,
No kidding.
we're flying over Mount Washington, which is the highest mountain in the Northeast. It's 6,280 feet. We're basically hovering. The aircraft was kind of primitive by today's standards, I guess I would say. Is kind of a glass bubble, if you remember the MASH helicopters, similar to that. And it's like you're just floating in space. And I'm looking at, like, again, I'd flown on a small airplane before, but never anything like this experience. And I said, you could actually do this as a job? And he says, yeah. And he said, you could, if you join the Army, they'll send you to flight training, and you could do this as a career. And I'm like, okay. If this is a possibility for me, yeah, I'll take it. And ultimately, when I got old enough, I went and talked to the recruiter. And you probably heard the joke, a recruiter's line because their lips are moving. They have a quota. They're trying to fill certain slots.
Sure.
And there are programs that are available sometimes, and sometimes they're not. And he told me, sorry, but flight school program's not available for people coming right in off the street. You're going to have to join the military first, and then you can apply for flight school afterwards, which is all correct. But I didn't really know whether he was telling me the truth about, could I have applied to go directly to flight school? But either way, and another smart thing I did, and I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I have made some good decisions along the way, is I spoke to someone else about joining the military. And, and I think you and Jared had talked about this, or he did. And you don't want to just go join the military, right? There has to be a purpose to it. I mean, serving the country is noble and it's great, and we need people to do that. But for you as an individual, you should also be thinking about, what can I do with this in the life after the military?
Sure, absolutely.
And I was offered to go to, as we discussed before we got on camera, the Spanish language school in Monterey, California, to be in military intelligence. And how marketable is that? I don't know. But, I was convinced that, well, they'll send me to school for a year to learn Spanish. I'll be a military intelligence analyst. That's probably something worth something. Yeah. and then I can possibly apply for flight school. Okay.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. Okay, so I got to tell you, I had one story here that I didn't get to. I got to touch on it because it may be one of the most disappointing stories I found. This is not what I expected in woke world. This is not what I expected to find in woke world. If I had to name a restaurant, JP, that you thought was conservative, what would it be? What can you imagine? What kind of a restaurant?
Something
would
like a
be-
Buffalo Wild Wings, or
You think they're conservative?
a sports bar place like that, steakhouse, something like that.
I would think that some place that serves like down home food where like real people go, like blue collar food, would be like the kind of place where you'd find, conservatism. And how about this? I've got a story from Fox Business Dateline yesterday. A pro-Trump law group is saying that Cracker Barrel is still using DEI programs in its hiring, violating state and federal law.
Yeah, I'm kind of mad at myself. I didn't think Cracker Barrel was the first option when I heard
shocked by this.
conservative. Yeah.
I mean, next thing they're going to tell me that Buc-ee's is liberal. I mean, this can't happen. But yes, conservative pro-Trump law group America First Legal filed complaints on Monday with the Tennessee Attorney General and the Equal Opportunity Employment Commission, alleging that Cracker Barrel is maintaining discriminatory employment practices stemming from its diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. Cracker Barrel. Do they understand what Cracker Barrel? Cracker Barrel is like going to Granny's house, but it's a restaurant. Cracker Barrel is where you go to get some like fried okra and cornbread and, the things that like real people eat.
Play checkers while waiting for your
Play
food.
checkers while you're waiting for your food, buy candy you don't need, shop for clothes you don't want. And then next thing you know, you're walking out with bags full of stuff, and it's capitalism, and it's also down home. It's Southern America. And yet they're saying that Cracker Barrel is maintaining DEI policies. That's a story on Fox Business. I've got it right here in my callous former paratrooper hands, but I'm just telling you, this one shocked me. I would have thought I'd heard Starbucks or something like that. Some left-wing founded in Portland kind of restaurant. Not Cracker Barrel, headquartered in Tennessee of all places. All right. Whew. Fix that. I still want fried okra. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Coming up next, the Grand Council with Jeff Poore and Scott Buttram. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
We'll go ahead and sign this. And it was one of those cases where I had gone off to talk to the recruiter on my own and then came back to the house. I'd already signed the paperwork. My parents had not been informed at all. And they were kind of shocked, right? But I said, I think this sounds like a pretty good deal. Let's give it a try. And then I was stunned by the reality of basic training. I just,
No kidding.
I wasn't mentally prepared for it. I just wasn't.
But who really is?
Yeah, I guess no one is.
That's back when drill sergeants could be drill sergeants.
Yes. I mean, it was quite a lifestyle change is all I could say.
Yeah.
I mean, you're living in an open barracks with 20 guys that you've never met before from all over the country. They treat by design, they treat you like crap, right? I mean, it's probably not as bad as some of the other military training that goes on, but it's going from a high school kid with long hair and, concert T-shirts on and didn't care about anything except girls and some sports. This is a radical lifestyle change. And I at that point was thinking, I have made a mistake. This is not what I thought it was going to be. And I don't know what I did think it was going to be, but it certainly shocked me to the point where I was thinking about, I don't know if I can get out of this, but if I can, I need to.
Well, was there anybody in your life like you had this warrant officer from the Guard who gave you the flight in the helicopter? But did you have any military in your family? I mean, was there anything watching it as you grew up? Like my family's been generational Army, so my son watched 3 generations before him do stuff, and then he wanted to do it.
Right.
But did you have anything like that?
They were in the Guard. My uncles were in the Guard. My father was in the Guard. But to me, that's different. I mean, you just sort of see him, go once a month. Not that the Guard isn't a great,
No,
organization, but it's just
it wasn't a full life.
right. And you still live at home. Unless you get deployed, obviously. But it was. I wasn't prepared. And I was, again, to the point where if I could get out of this, I need to, and was convinced that I should stay by the drill sergeant, and I did. And at that point, got like super motivated. I got like the PT award, physical training award of the whole class, and in basic training, I scored the highest, and just really got motivated that, okay, if I am going to do this, I'm going to do the best job that I possibly can. And then I went on to language school, advanced individual training, where they teach you how to actually do what you're on contract to do. And then I went to Panama, and that's where my assignment was. And I'm at that point, probably an E3 enlisted private, and working in a military intelligence unit. And coincidentally, run across Manuel Noriega in the parking lot
In the parking lot
of our, because he was an
was there
MI
a food
guy.
truck and y'all were standing in line together or what?
No, but he was a military intelligence guy. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
was in a military intelligence unit, and at the time, he's only probably a major or whatever, but he was already pretty well known, and he showed up, and he obviously very easy individual to identify.
You were there later.
And then
saw him
years
again,
later, we
yeah.
go back and bag him. But anyway, so I'm kind of enjoying this military intelligence job. And then one day I'm sitting on the beach, and I know this is a really long answer to your original question, but I'm sitting on the beach, and these 3 Hueys fly low level right over the top of us with shooters in the back and their legs out the door. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot how much I really want to do that. And so it sort of re-energized me. I applied for flight school and I got in. Had I not gotten into flight school, I probably would have separated from the military, because I did like it, but I felt like there was something more. But getting to flight school was then a game changer.
All right, so you got to flight school. So warrant officer candidate, become a warrant officer. What W01, I guess. Go to flight school as a W01.
No, what's different today is that you actually get commissioned as a W1 pretty early in the pipeline. Back then, you didn't get it until you were done flight school. So you go
Okay.
through as a warrant officer candidate. And what it does is it changes your date of rank, is what it really does. I mean, you're still treated like you're an idiot whether you're a W1 or not, but your date of rank changes.
You guys, but I made the joke earlier about the warrant officer mafia.
Yeah.
Y'all are as warrant officers, you're technicians, you're technical specialists. You have niche, basically skills and knowledge, but you're also this kind of in between that. Folks who are junior in rank or junior as officers always look at you like, I don't know what to do with you right now.
Right.
Can I tell you what to do? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And but y'all kind of ride in the middle a lot of times, it seems like.
And we're the ones that keep everything running.
And you are the ones who keep everything running.
Yeah.
There's the backbone of the Army and the NCO Corps, and then there's y'all that keep things running.
Right.
But all right, so you became a warrant officer. You went to flight school down at Fort Rucker, which is now called Fort Rucker again soon, it looks like.
Yeah.
But coming up, and we were talking about your raisings, so to speak, up there in New Hampshire. We're going to go forward into your story here in a few minutes. But what about being raised, where you were, who you were, with you or with, whatever else? What do you think instilled things in you that you wound up needing later on? Like, was it sports? Was it family? Was it faith? What did you see in your life that you looked later on like, I'm glad I had that because it built me up?
Yeah, faith is certainly part of it. Now, my faith journey had its ups and downs, and the lowest point probably being post Somalia, when looking back at what happened there, based on what we were trying to do, in my mind there was no justification for the horrors that occurred there, and I couldn't accept it, because it was horrible. I mean, there's not a lot of things I've witnessed that were as bad as what happened there. And we were there for all the right reasons. So anyway, but faith is certainly part of who I am, and it's come full circle. I think playing sports helped a lot too.
Was it hockey?
I played hockey, I played football. I mean, I wasn't great, but I played. And you learn about working and teamwork and your role in the organization to make the overall team a success. And those things to me are invaluable if you can learn them when you're young. So I think a combination of all those things.
Good enough. It's amazing sometimes what we draw on later. You don't even realize you've got it now. I can remember things as a kid that I didn't know that I grumbled about, and then later on you realize that instilled something.
Yeah.
So you went on to do some pretty amazing stuff. So in the world of aviation, Army aviation, the 160th, which you're wearing the shirt right now.
I am wearing the
You are wearing the shirt.
By design.
Night Stalkers. So yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, Welcome to hour number 3. It's hour number 3 on a hump day. You know what that means? We play the camel at the beginning of the show, but coming up at the beginning of hour number 3, we jump into a thing we call the Grand Council. So today we do have a substitute, a proxy, if you will, sitting in for the out-of-town Dale Jackson. So let me just go ahead and call the roll, make sure we have a quorum for the council. So from way down south on the Gulf of America, that would be the host of the Jeff Poor Show, Jeff Poor himself from FM Talk 1065. Oh, by the way, editor-in-chief of 1819 News, also does work with Breitbart and has history with people like Tucker Carlson and all that kind of stuff. Jeff Poor, are you there?
I am present.
You are indeed, and we're glad of it. All right, and then sitting in, like I said, for the out-of-town Dale Jackson, the Secretary of Common Sense himself, publisher of the Trustville Tribune, master of pugnacious punditry, Scott Buttram. Are you there?
Present, sir.
I am glad, and I pronounce a quorum. Hit it, man.
Assemble the Grand Council.
All right, we have a quorum, so we're moving forward. I'm going to go ahead and say round 1. First question for the group. Jeff Poor, what do you got?
Well, let's start with Tulsi Gabbard and the
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, this is where the enthusiasm seems to be. I'm very skeptical anything will come of it, but I'm eager to hear what you got to say, Senator. What will come of the ultimately of the Tulsi Gabbard criminal referrals?
Well, so on a criminal referral, I mean, so you got 2 things, I guess, really. First of all, number 1, I'm all for disclosure. Disclosure is only part of it, though. Then there's accountability. So the disclosure piece is happening. It's coming out in tranches, and these are real documents. I mean, I don't know what drawers, file cabinets, or computers they've been kept in, but they're finding stuff and they're bringing it out. And I'm for disclosure, absolutely. As for accountability, legally speaking, I don't think they're going to make a case for treason unless they find out that there was another nation state that was colluding with it, because treason is working with a foreign adversary to, anyway. I do think, though, there's a possibility of subversion. I think there's a chance for lying to Congress. And I think there's things like administrative procedures like revoking clearances and even stopping their pensions these guys could be facing. So I hope there's accountability. I don't think it's going to rise to the level of treason, but I do think there's going to be some measure of, at the very least, making their lives really, really uncomfortable coming up. What do you think there, Scotty?
You pretty much summed up my thoughts. I think there's a lot of hope that Obama gets caught up in it. I don't think that happens, even though I think he was very deeply involved in
Oh,
it.
yeah.
I think he'll walk away untouched. I do think we will see some measure of justice and punishment against some of these people. To what extent, I don't know. I guess it depends on what level of offense can be proven. But I think we'll see something out of it. Probably not what most of us are hoping for.
Well, I tell you too, part of the accountability is just the fact that they have to deal with this. That's
right.
There's that.
Right.
It's your own question. Yeah, go ahead.
Brennan has run around terrified, and we all knew he's hiding. He's scared to death of something. There's this more than his hate for Trump. He's scared. Now we know why.
Yeah, absolutely. It's your own question, Jeff. What are you thinking?
Yeah, my hope is the accountability is as such that they had to spend a bunch of money on lawyers as they did to Trump and all these people who were around Trump, people I know personally.
That's right.
Steve Bannon and
Yeah.
a lot of these guys, they had to lawyer up because they had to go peer before special counsels and all these different lawfare aspects, J6 select committees. This is the new rules. This is the new standard. Then they need to fill it in the pocketbooks as well.
And they created the
Right.
standard, by the way. And yeah, you're right. Look at
That's right.
Roger Stone. Look at Bannon. Look at Mike Flynn and all these people who just had their lives completely destroyed for a power base that was doing things that had no basis in reality.
False arrests are a great way to make innocent people pay.
Oh my gosh, it's and I, by the way, if they are innocent, if it's not there, I don't want them to go through that. At the same time, if it's there, they deserve everything they get. And here's the thing, I think it's there. I mean, I
do too.
I'm not one who rushes to the storyline. I try to let it steep a little bit. This one feels absolutely like the there is there.
Well, I mean,
the
it's
fact
just
the fact that they did this after Trump won, that removes all doubt for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like I said, the way they've done this is the new game we're gonna play.
Yeah.
We need to look at these things. This is how we're going to analyze our politics. This is how we're going to weaponize things.
Yeah.
Because my hope is we don't do this anymore. It's a waste
Right.
of the news cycle. It's a distraction, and it criminalizes politics. And where does this? I mean, where's the ultimate destination here if we continue down this path?
Well,
Absolutely.
Jeff, if we don't get accountability and punishment here, what message does that send?
The same message we've been getting too often on stuff like this. But yes.
Yeah.
All right. I'll tell you what, I'm going to hand it off to you. Next question, Scott. What do you got?
Jeff knows what's coming. We've already discussed it this week. I'm going to keep discussing it until the session starts.
Okay.
Do the Alabama Republicans in the state house and in the state Senate have the backbone to follow Alabama Republicans in Washington and cut funding to media? Do they have the backbone to cut funding to APTV, just like Katie Britt, Tommy Tuberville, a slew of Republican congresspeople just cut funding to PBS and NPR?
This is a passion project for you, Jeff. What do you think?
No, I know if we're gonna proclaim that we're carrying the banner for Trump here in Alabama and Trump is great and we're gonna hitch our wagon to his coattails, then this needs to follow suit. Look, you know, if these guys, I've noticed a lot of media are picking this up today, Scott. AL.com, Yellowhammer are kind of following our lead, but they're referring back to the Capital Journal segment with Wayne Reed and Jack Williams, who were saying, "We're not PBS. We're not PBS. We try to be objective." And you look at their lineup, and I'm not talking about Todd Show. I'm
No.
not talking about Focus or Spotlight on Education or whatever it is that they do, their quarterly or monthly program. It is almost 95% all PBS broadcasting. So
Oh,
our
yeah.
tax dollars, guys, here's what's happening.
Our
They
state
may not
tax
be
dollars.
generating the content, the programming or whatever, but they are going toward these towers, this infrastructure that broadcast PBS NewsHour and Washington Week. And that's they are being used, or ETF dollars are being used to promote that stuff.
They
For sure.
absolutely are. They absolutely are. And so it's almost glaring at times when Alabama Republicans don't even take the cues from the DC, which by the way, they're separate, and I get that. They do their own thing. But there's times when you look at it and realize you could be working in sync here. Take, for instance, the overtime tax. At the same time that Republicans in Alabama were going, we just can't do that overtime tax anymore. We're going to let it expire. In DC, they were putting it in place. And I see the same thing here. Now you've got the defunding of public, broadcasting up in DC, but they're going to continue to fund it down here. I guarantee you they're going to keep funding it. I think that's what they're going to do.
Jeff never answered the question.
Jeff, yes or no? Are they going to defund it?
Probably not, but they're gonna. Guys. Here's what needs to happen. Though this is the best thing that will happen, is that these guys at Alabama Public Television feel a little heat, and they start having to react and at least pay homage to. Hey, we run a left wing network here, and they're starting to breathe down our necks.
Yeah. And by the way, I didn't even realize Jack Williams worked there till recently. So.
He was been there for a little while. He's kind of their I guess it was like their lobbyist because he's in the state house a lot and he goes to DC a lot. I guess it's not really working out for him though.
That just wouldn't work for me. Okay, hey, real quick, I got a quick question. We got about a minute and a half to 2 minutes before we go to the break. So this morning there was a notice that there was going to be a major press conference between Britt and Tuberville. They were doing a joint press for a major announcement, but then the press conference got canceled. The fact that there was going to be a press conference is not secret. The question is, what was the press conference going to be about? I'm speculating, but I am of the mind. I know, Jeff, I've already been talking to you about it, but I'm of the mind they were about to announce Space Command coming to Huntsville. I don't know this for a fact. I'm just speculating, but I see that as being a likely potential anyway, and I think that was about to happen. And maybe this is rescheduling it. Maybe it was a scheduling issue. But what is your speculation on what the mystery announcement was going to be? Jeff, you first.
No, I think you're right, and this has been kind of a weird rollout, and I don't know. They're trying to just milk it for more political oomph or whatever, but it felt very Space Command-ish because when do you ever see Tommy Tuberville and Katie Britt do something like that together?
Yeah.
That's why when I saw, I was like, oh, they're gonna announce Space Command today.
What do you think, Scott?
I have no earthly idea. I don't hear from Senator Britt anymore. She doesn't call. She doesn't write. I kind of think Jeff Poor stole her from me.
Well,
Don't
you
know that
shouldn't
for
have been
sure,
hiding.
but that's
You
the
shouldn't
rumor
have
in
been
the
hiding,
street.
Scott. You shouldn't have been hiding in her bushes, man.
Oh, dude. Oh, did that just come out?
That'll
Is that a
turn her
scoop?
away.
That'd be a sight.
The Secretary of Common Sense has been upended by the speculation
You-
that
you-
he
you
was
say
hiding in
my
the bush.
65-year-old rear end trying to run away from Wesley Britt. You kidding me?
All right, we got to take a break on that one. Scott Buttram, Peeping Tom. I love it. All right, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. Round 2 of the Grand Council coming up. 50th Special Operations Aviation Regiment. I remember when I first got in, we called them Task Force 160.
Right.
But you guys were the premier Special Operations Rotary Wing guys. And how did you? I've never heard what is like. I know what selection is like to go to Ranger School. I know what selection is like to go to the Q course for Special Forces. But there's a selection process to go to the 160th. Am I right?
No, yeah.
So-
It's very
so-
similar, actually.
All right. So tell me about that.
So when I first found out about the unit, I was in Korea. And at the time, it was still what we call a black organization, meaning nobody publicly acknowledged that it existed because it had just been formed in the aftermath of the attempted rescue of the Iranian hostages.
Right.
That's why the unit was created, because the analysis indicated that, look, you can't just throw together a bunch of assets and go try to do a complicated mission like this. It's not going to work. And so they created the unit, and there was going to be a second attempt, but most people don't know that. But the unit started training long-range missions in the desert, all the things that were required to go prosecute that target. And we're pretty much getting to the point where they were ready to go, and then the hostages got released. But the smartest decision maybe ever made by our government was, okay, well, the hostages are released, but we still need this capability. So let's keep the organization intact, fund it, obviously because everything runs on funding, unfortunately. And today, I mean, it's just an amazing organization. It's gotten more amazing over the years. So when I found out about it, it was, like I said, it was still black. And it's like people whispered about it in bars, and it's like, wow, I read Tom Clancy books. That sounds really cool, And I was getting assigned to Fort Campbell, which is where the headquarters for the 160th is. So I'm thinking, all right, I go to Fort Campbell. I walk across the street, knock on the door, say, hey, I'm interested. What do I need to do? And I made the mistake of signing into the 101st Airborne Division before I went and talked to the 160th. And by doing that, committed me to 2 years in the 101st. But in the end, best thing that could have happened to me.
Got a lot of stick time doing that.
I did get a lot of stick time. And in Korea, I'd flown medevac. And medevac is, it's great experience. You got to make a lot of decisions on the fly, quick response, bad weather, and you're flying by yourself. I was 22 years old. I'm flying real world medevac missions, as the pilot in command.
No kidding. Yeah.
You mature faster or you die.
Yeah.
That's basically how it works.
And others die with you. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was great experience. But what I didn't have is multi-ship, meaning like formation flying, not a lot of, I had a decent amount of night vision goggle time, but not a ton. And you really need a lot of night vision goggle time to do well at the 160th. So getting that extra 2 years on 101st really helped me out. I went to the instructor pilot school while I was in the 101st. So now I'm an IP. I got much more time. I got a lot more formation flying experience.
Yeah.
And then the process begins. So the assessment, again, it's a volunteer organization. So everybody that goes there on the pilot side is a volunteer. And then you have to go through an assessment, a lot like some of these other special units that you're familiar with. It's a psych eval, it's a swim test, physical fitness test, flight eval, board, all that stuff. And it happens in about a 3 or 4 day period. The board's always the most dramatic because you show up with your dress uniform on, you go in there and a bunch of people look like they want to hit you. And they ask you very difficult questions and try to put you in uncomfortable situations. And, there is no right answer. They just want to see how you answer the question, what your makeup is. And that just begins the process. So then you enter Green Platoon if they decide to take you. Green Platoon has changed quite a bit, but by the time you start to end, it's about 10 months where you're going through, again, land navigation, life saving, physical fitness, just, all the things that, soldiering in general require at a high level. And then you start basic nav where you're navigating in the cockpit with a map and a compass. Because even today, I think the priority is, hey, look, you need to know how to navigate, even though you got multiple systems in the aircraft that'll get you there.
That's right.
When I was first in, GPS wasn't even in the aircraft
No,
yet.
not at all.
The global positioning system, I'm assuming everybody knows what that is. But so we really did rely on a paper map and a compass. But you have to, hit targets in the middle of nowhere at night with very limited resources, and be able to do it every time plus or minus 30 seconds. And it's not as easy as it sounds. I mean, depending on where you're trying to go, that can be a pretty difficult task.
I can just tell you it's hard doing it on the ground.
Yeah.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just bulletproof influence, man. Bulletproof influence. All right, so we're going back to round two, the Grand Council with Jeff Poor and Scott Buttram. So I'm turning southward again. Jeff Poor, first question. What you got?
Another layup here. Jeffrey Epstein stuff. Is it now seated to be a Democrat sort of hobby horse?
A hobby horse. I don't know. Hang on. First of all,
You got to ride it all the way to
I know, man.
2026, Senator. I mean, that's what it looks like to be now.
I just want you to know, Jeff, that I am going to plagiarize hobby horse for the next week and a half. Thank you very much.
I've been using it for years.
I like it. Yeah, they are, because it's all they got right now. I mean, who knows what may come up between now and then, but right now it's what they got. The thing they got to watch out for is this can backfire on them as quickly as anything, because what you're going to wind up finding out as Trump goes, okay, fine, go petition the judge, see if we can get the sealed grand jury, which, by the way, the judge denied that today, I believe. The release of the grand jury testimonies that would have named names, because a lot of this stuff is bound up in court. But I think what you're going to wind up seeing is that Democrats are going to quickly have some buyer's remorse when they begin to realize it's their own people that may be involved. So they're still gonna harp on it, like Adam Schiff harped on having seen the evidence in the Russia collusion thing, even though he never saw jack. What do you think, Scott?
Yes, they are going to continue to harp on it, and that is the Republicans' fault, because they harped on it for 2 years and had absolutely no idea what was actually there. We were just convinced there was something. But yeah, the Republicans kind of built this animal, and the Democrats are going to run with it. They're not going to do much because they have no idea what's there either. And I don't think I definitely don't think it is a winning pursuit for them. It's just not good. We let this Epstein's plane. Who was on Epstein's plane? Just because you were on the plane doesn't mean you were, having sex with children. There's a pretty big jump there. But we painted it that way. Everybody associated with Epstein had to be involved, and that's probably never been true.
Well, and I'll tell you what they're going to wind up doing, though. They're going to create the guilt by association narrative, and they're going to reinvent it every day. It's like the last 2 days. Anytime in New York society that Trump and Epstein were at an event at the same time, the pictures are beginning to come out. Like they didn't figure this out during the election season last year, but nonetheless, now they're finding them all because the archives don't lie. Jeff, your own question. What are your thoughts?
No, I think I like the way you put it there, Scott. The Republicans should have handled this a little better. It was, they saw, the Democrats and the media saw a division here. It took them a couple of days to really get their legs under them. But now it went from being something that was sort of a Tucker Carlson thing out there kind of online, is now like a good portion of time is devoted to it on cable news and left-wing Washington Post, this kind of media.
I tell you who had the best response to all this was actually the one they thought was going to quit his job was Dan Bongino. He made the statement. He said, "I used to get paid to give my opinions. Now I have to get paid to deal with facts." And so that's clarity. Next question, real quick. What you got, Scott?
Okay, don't forget to come back to me on this, Phil, because I know I'm going to have to straighten you people out.
Okay.
Alabama AG race.
Yeah.
Who do you like?
Wow. Okay. So I have to come back to you on this. You mean you want to register?
Don't forget to. Yeah, I want to answer my question.
Okay, so
I know you two are going to have the wrong answer.
So first of all, I've known Catherine Robertson for a while. Now her opposition is a great guy. I mean, he really is. But I think Catherine suddenly having $1 million and having the street cred of having been a conservative at API and working the AG's office, the thing she's lacking right now is she's never run for office before. And so her name ID has got to get out there. But I like who she is, and I like for how she presents herself. So right now I'm saying I think that Catherine Robertson has a chance at this, but she's got work to do because the name ID has got to come up. But $1 million in the bank doesn't hurt. Jeff?
It's not going to be Pam Casey if that's where you're going with this,
Oh,
Scott.
no.
I'm sorry. I mean, that's my prediction. Who knows? But Jay Mitchell will raise a lot of money. Catherine Robertson has already raised a lot of money, and this is going to be a knockdown, drag out thing. I think between those two, to be honest. But I don't know. I mean, this is down ballot. This is typically one of the uglier down ballot races for sure. So I don't really have a good pulse on what the direction is. I just know that both aren't really campaigning hard. They're just out fundraising right now.
All right, 45 seconds, Scott. What are your thoughts on this? Now, throwing back to you.
Okay, I like Jay Mitchell. I think he's a really good guy. I really, really, really like Catherine Robertson. I think she'd make an excellent AG. When Pamela Casey runs her TV ad, she's over in Blount County, y'all. We watch her all the time. We have a great readership in Blount County. When she runs those TV ads, slamming that cell door and promising to prime till their eyes pop out, she's going to win.
Is she going to be? What was the guy's name that started shooting dummies? Remember that? The guy in the cowboy hat?
I don't. He didn't win. That's why we don't remember him, Bill. But Charlie Graddick won, baby.
No kidding. All right, real quick, with 10 seconds left, is Barry Moore getting in the race for U.S. Senator, or is he getting out? Jeff?
He's getting in.
He's getting in. What do you think there, Scott?
I defer to Jeff.
Okay. I think he probably
I have
is.
no idea.
All right. That's it. Grand Council. Scott, thank you for sitting in for Dale Jackson. Jeff Poor, as always, thank you. Listeners, thank you. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. You guys have a different terrain markers from up there, but you're also flying by it a lot faster, so you're having to keep track of the terrain
pretty quickly. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it starts with the planning process. You got to pick the right checkpoints, in order to help you find your way. And then you learn the aircraft systems, because the aircraft have different systems than the conventional force does. So you got to learn how all that works. Then you got to learn the special tactics, like things like fast rope maneuvers and aerial refueling now.
I was going to ask about that.
All of that stuff is all unique to the unit. So you have to learn all that and demonstrate proficiency.
Was
ship
Black Hawk
landing.
your airframe at the time too, right away?
Well, it was for me. It's different now because it's a pretty expensive aircraft to fly to put all those hours on it. So now they actually start out in Little Birds, which are the Hughes 500s, basically, for all that basic nav stuff, and then they move to the advanced aircraft.
Okay.
So again, all that takes about 10 months. And then again, kind of like Jared said, then you arrive at the unit and you're still nobody, because you're the FNG, basically, if anybody knows what that acronym stands for.
It's the one we won't say, but yeah.
There are people that won't even talk to you. You have not proven yourself. You just because you got through Green Platoon means nothing, right? You have to then make your way through the progression, basic mission qualified, full mission qualified, and then the ultimate level is flight lead.
And I'm assuming Green Platoon actually weeds people out too.
Oh yeah.
So you have some that are there and they're not there the next day.
Oh, you lose people in assessment, you lose people in all phases of Green Platoon, and then you lose some people once they get to the unit, because either the deployment schedule is too much for them, or they just aren't performing the way you thought they were going to perform, even though they got through all that. when the rubber actually meets the road, sometimes it doesn't work out.
Was it of any benefit to you at all that you had your Spanish language skills that were already there? I mean,
No,
in some
probably
special
not.
operations, they want a language skill to be attached to it, but is that necessary at all in aviation?
No, not really. No, I think in that case, it probably didn't help me a whole lot. I mean, the more you know about the more things, it's obviously going to help you in life. But I can't think of a specific example where that helped me out.
So you guys, you said you had some flying with nods at night vision ahead of your time going to Green Platoon and getting into the 160th, but you guys fly with it a lot when you're in the 160th, right? Is that one of the things that differentiates the 160th capabilities, aside from the airframe having some other capabilities too? But is flying with nods a big part of what y'all do?
Yeah, certainly at the time. I would say now there's maybe the focus is broader. I mean, across the entire military.
Yeah.
But the unit was pioneers in night vision goggle flight. I mean, our guys were the ones that came up with the idea. When I went through flight school, we actually flew with what are called full face goggles, meaning they have a frame around them where you cannot see anything other than what you see through the tubes. And we did flights during the daytime with filters on the ends of the tubes where the instructor can see, but you can't, because obviously that's the safest way to learn how to fly night vision goggles. But it's really difficult for the person actually flying under those conditions. I think I was actually the last class to ever fly full face goggles and do day filters. I'm not sure, but we made a transition right around that time. But it was guys at the unit who said, "This is stupid. Cut the frame off," right? Because they're originally made for ground use, not air use.
Yeah.
So they cut the frame off and they made them flip up, and there's
I've
been
used those
evolution
things
after
before.
evolution.
They got the big cushion pad around.
Yeah,
and they're like
the full
like
face
this
ones.
big.
Yeah. They didn't last very long, but that's where it started. Until somebody said, "No, we need to change this," and then they came up with ideas like finger lights and lip lights and infrared lasers and infrared tracers and all these things that you can see with night vision goggles that you can't see with the unaided eye. All were, basically came from that early.
So how much of that
stage.
training is done by simulators now? Do they do that? by
A lot,
simulation?
yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Simulators are really good. It was actually part of what I did after,
At Pinnacle?
I transitioned out, was working that field. And it's a tremendous cost saver and safety. You can do things in a simulator that are sometimes impossible to do in the aircraft, but certainly safer to do in a simulator. And you can do it cost effectively, because a lot of what's going on in the aircraft today that are advanced is mission management. It's not so much moving the sticks around, it's pushing buttons and understanding how to use the integrated avionics. And you don't need to learn how to do that in a, aircraft that costs.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. This one, goes from like Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. I'm talking about all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the line from there to what we now call, once again, Fort Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. And that's just the radio. Then there's all y'all out there in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web and live streaming the show. Live streaming. You can watch us inside the studio, see what we're doing. Live streaming the show on places like Rumble and X and YouTube. And, by the way, our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then all you podcasters, too, that catch it after the fact. Listen, the bottom line is this. We know you're all out there. We know you're all over the place. And we know you pick it up in different ways. But the fact that you guys are listening to this show means the world to us. We love you and we appreciate you. Right Side Ruffians are everywhere. Let the world take note. All right, so let me jump on some text messages, because good Lord, you guys are some texting machines. Some of this dates back to prior dippers. JP, if you got anything over there you want to read off of yours, you let me know. Mr. Hill from Pumpkin Center says, if the B in LGBTQ stands for bisexual, doesn't that answer the question of how many genders there really are? Bi means two. Case closed. That's out of left field, but that's rational. You are correct. Wow. Thomas from Athens, I'd never thought of that. Not that I would have dwelled on it.
Well, don't get too excited because there's pansexual, which is everything. So
That's true.
Yeah.
They do run the gamut.
Yeah, there's a sexuality for everything. And then there's a plus, which means any sexualities out there that they haven't identified yet still exist. So yeah.
They leave room
Yes.
just in case. Yeah, I've got actually somewhere, I may still have it in a drawer here. I'm trying to, because I've got like a diary, a glossary, I'm sorry, of woke, not a diary. I don't keep a diary of wokeness. I have a glossary of woke terms. Look at this. I got stacks of, these are woke glossaries. I keep it in the drawer here in case I have to interpret something while I'm on the show. But there was somewhere in here, I had the world's longest version of the LGBTQ2IA plus yada, yada, yada acronym. I got to find that again because it was pretty hilarious. I want to say it took me something like almost a minute to read it.
That doesn't surprise me. That's why there's a plus. Because they try to save time. It's anything out there that we haven't identified yet counts.
Thomas from Athens says wokeism is a type of negative power. It rejects biblical teachings of individual sovereignty and enlightenment. Okay. That's pretty powerful, but it's not wrong. Tammy from Huntsville said, Bud Light has never apologized to their base for their evil spit on America. Never again will my money purchase Bud products. Tammy, don't beat around the bush. Tell us how you feel. By the way, I'm sure you're not alone in that based on their sales. Just saying. Jeff Rowe from Indiana checking in says, hey, Phil. Oh, this is about if you missed it, you missed an incredible segment. It appears that there's a hospital in Minneapolis that gave HR gave a seminar with slides, and I have copies of the slides about who's allowed to use the N word and who's not. And basically what it boils down to is if you're black, it's your choice. If you're not black, you can't use it, period. Doesn't matter whether you got, a little more melatonin in your skin or melanin in your skin, not melatonin.
Melatonin.
Everybody's falling asleep while we're talking. Melanin in your skin. But yeah, Jeff from Indiana wants to know, hey, Phil, what if you're a furry and you go around calling women the B word? Is that okay? Jeff, now you're just reaching, brother. You're just reaching. I don't think that's got it. I'm just going to move on. John from Huntsville says, Phil, what's wrong with saying the word nachos? That's the N word we're talking about, right? John, you just go ahead and live in your innocence, brother. It's all good. Thank you. He said, also tell JP not to say the S word. I think he knows the word I'm talking about. What's the S word?
Seinfeld.
Oh, shoot. You just lost points. Lynn from Knoxville, Tennessee says, let's be honest. Okay, so we had a thing I had a minute ago. I can't read that. I can't read that one?
No.
Okay. You know what? I won't read that.
Yeah.
Okay. Joe from Tennessee says, per Cracker Barrel, they have completely changed their business model. A total disgrace. Yeah, Joe, why would they do that? I mean, you look at this and go, it was successful, y'all. What is your point? But I'll be honest with you. I don't know about you. I have been somewhat disenfranchised. I used to go to Cracker Barrel and I liked walking through the store because I saw things I liked. I rarely see things I like in there now.
I mean, listen, they had a what was it called? It was a pancake. I think it was a strawberry cheesecake pancake.
Oh, you're on the food
or something.
right now.
Oh yeah. I mean, if we're talking about Cracker Barrel,
I was talking about the store.
Oh, then never mind. I never looked in the store in the first place.
Yes, you did.
I mean, maybe when I was
did.
10.
No,
yeah.
you wandered through that store and found things.
No, I normally go through and find the funny stuff they have. But I don't think I've ever actually bought something.
Now they did have neat little kids' toys. They do.
Yes, but when I was like 10 or so, me and my sister would play with those.
I tell you what they did have, and these were really good. Double dipped milk chocolate peanuts. I'm just gonna be honest, they're pretty epic.
Listen, Cracker Barrel, people bash Cracker Barrel because I think it's old people food. It is amazing.
It is not old people food.
I agree.
It's real people food.
It is. Cracker Barrel is great. It is awesome food.
Thank you very much.
And you'll go in there and you'll see pictures of some random people with a pitchfork that you would see in your grandmother's house that you don't know who they are. And the people at Cracker Barrel don't even know who they are either. So that's just there to be there. But it adds to the vibe, and I like it.
Now you're just talking out your head now.
It's true. Yeah, I guarantee you walk into a Cracker Barrel, you'll see people with a pitchfork, a picture on the wall.
That's called that's
not
a famous painting.
Not that one iconic one. I'm just saying in general. There's a bunch of obscure old, like pioneer pictures of there that they don't even know who they are either. They probably just found it on the internet, put it up.
My biggest problem with Cracker Barrel is shrinkflation.
Why? What are they shrinking?
Because if you order a side of their, I do like their hash brown casserole.
I've not had that
If
one.
you order a side of fried okra, good luck. You might get like 4 okras.
See, maybe
That's a little irritating.
Maybe we're just giving them free PR. Maybe we got to wait till they sponsor us before we keep talking how good their food is.
All I know is when you go to Buc-ee's, everything's bigger.
Everything is bigger than
Including the beef
Buc-ee's.
jerky.
I haven't had their beef jerky.
Mike from Florence checked in. He says, I have walked out of a local bar telling my bouncer friend the reason I was leaving was, can I read this out loud? Did you read this yet? Did you check it?
I mean, you can. It's on the topic we were on earlier, but
Which topic is it? Is it on
the one you just didn't read a text on?
Okay. I don't know. Is this the N word again?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't sing, but once the DJ started with playing music I wasn't allowed to sing along with, I had no desire to be there anymore. I always remember the time that 2 girls were calling up on the stage at a music festival to sing along with the song. And when they got to the N word, they didn't skip a beat until the lead singer and the band stopped. And they, along with the crowd, got rowdy and forced them off the stage, all because they were white. I've never used the word except in a quote. I'm careful even then. Unless everyone can say it, no one should. I think that's, yeah, I get that. That's the whole point. Woke world. And by the way, there's 2 pieces of this. First of all, there's the inanity, there's the insanity, there's the insolence of sitting in having a freaking HR meeting where the staff has to come and sit there and listen to when it's appropriate to use an inappropriate word. How about this? Be grown-ups. Don't offend your neighbor. You know it's wrong. Don't do it. And oh, by the way, here's the next piece. There's a thing called the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment, the freedom of speech. I am not advocating for foul language. I'm not. I'm not advocating for insulting or insolent language. I'm not. What I'm saying is you cannot tell one person they can say it, but that person cannot. That's not the way the free speech works. If you want to say we have a ban on profanity in our facility, okay, we will not abide by profanity. We will not abide by, if you want to say the N-word, we will not abide by racial slurs. Say it. Say we will not abide by racial slurs in our facility. That's the way we run our business. You will be written up. But you cannot go in there with a freaking PowerPoint slide, which is now considered evidence in the discrimination claim. You get what I'm saying? They just created evidence for an EEOC complaint and a discrimination claim based on race. Because now, sooner or later, some white guy who's being treated badly by his employer is going to go, wait a minute, I think I was in an HR hearing. Can I get a copy of those slides? Yeah, this is the way they run things over there. I believe I'm being treated disparately by my race. Well, why would you say this, sir? Well, look right here. It's a slide. It says that black people can say the N-word, but white people can't. That's a First Amendment right. You don't get to do that. You don't have selective application of speech. I'm sorry. It doesn't work like that. I would dare say, but it is Minneapolis, but I would, I just caught what I said. I would dare say that whoever put on that seminar, that the slides were not first screened by general counsel. Just say, there's no way. There is no way that somebody and all their wokeness and entitlement mentalities and all of their critical race theory and, everything going along with why this is the land of George Floyd and this is the hospital he died in. So we're going to say whatever we want to say. No, I'm sorry. Guess what? You're about to get sued. That hospital general counsel better be reeling that HR staff in and reprimanding them, maybe even helping them find a new job. Because they literally just put it on a slide that people of one color can say a word, but people of the other color can't say a word. Woke world does not see things like this. Woke world, the same woke world that wants to do away with your Second Amendment is the same woke world that will decide who gets to use the First Amendment. My gosh, I'm on a rant right now. JP just sits back in astonishment as these words come out of my head. I don't know where it's coming from, JP, but I'm passionate right now, man.
I could tell. I didn't want to interrupt that.
I'm so glad. So yeah, you know what? Here's the thing. Let me just give. Okay. First of all, I'm not any of your counsel. I would advise you to consult your own attorneys, but I will give you the free legal advice right now that if you want to ban verbiage of any kind, that it has to be uniform and across the board. You're not allowed to selectively say that certain races can say certain things and other certain races can't say them. That's just not the First Amendment. Does everybody understand? Can I have some applause? Everybody good? All right, let's break it. There we go. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Take me to a break, JP. Last break of the day. We'll come right back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
Ever, $10,000 an hour to fly. Now, I'm not saying you don't need stick time. Okay, that's the trap that some bean counters tend to fall into. That
There's always that seat of the pants feel that
yes,
changes things.
and actually the Army has come to realize that the aircraft they've been using for primary flight training at Fort Rucker now probably isn't the best because you're not doing enough actual stick flying. There's a lot of automated systems on board that help the aircraft or help you as a pilot, that you're losing that real ability to fly manually.
Yeah.
And they just did a pilot program where they're going to probably change how flight school is done because there's been a realization that we got people that don't know how to fly a helicopter. I mean, they can mission manage all day long, but if they have to actually fly a bird, they're not as good as we used to be, unfortunately.
So let me ask you this: what now? The 160th, y'all are balls out a lot. So when you're flying, some of the stuff you're doing are not the things you would do or even be allowed to do in a conventional unit. But then you're also, like you said, you were back in the days when things were being pioneered. And I swear, I think it was you told me one time about strapping a Gatling gun or something to the front of one of the birds just to try it out to see if it would work. And it didn't work very well.
Well,
am I right in remembering that?
Yeah, I was part of the group that created the Arm Black Hawk.
Okay.
And it's still the only place that it's used is at the 160.
All right.
And yeah, we were running with scissors. I mean, we put a 50 cal, and these things are being mounted just on what was originally intended to be a door gunner pintle mount. So it's not really structurally designed to hold, a fixed forward weapon, but we modified it to where it could. And I mean, we
had
duct
tape, a little zip tie.
Oh, plenty of duct tape. Yeah, even coat hangers. I mean, you name it, whatever it took. But it was an amazing time to be there because you could go from sitting in the team room saying, "Man, it would be cool if we could do this," to convincing the leadership that there's some risk here, but we think we can mitigate it. Let's go try it. To then, that worked, writing a requirement and actually getting it turned into something that is fielded and then go shoot it in combat. I mean, there's probably nowhere else in the world you could say that. And I experienced that on more than one occasion.
So what was the craziest thing you can remember y'all did and thought, man, we're never going to do that again? The one that you sit around at 160th reunions going, remember that time?
Yeah. Well, one of the most amazing stories, and I've told it many times, I like to joke that I shot myself down 5 times. And the most dramatic one, and none of it my fault, but the most dramatic one. So back to this pintle mount with a minigun on it. So a minigun is a 7.62 Gatling gun,
right.
6-barrel. It'll shoot 6,000 rounds a minute at high rate. Okay, that is incredible. When people see video, like if you go online, you Google minigun, night firing, keep in mind all those tracers you're seeing, that's every 14th round. Okay, every 15th round. It's 14-to-1 tracer mix usually. So even though it's a steady stream of tracers, there's 14 more rounds in between each one of those you're not seeing. That's how many rounds are going downrange. So we got one on each side. And the way that we fixed forward mounted them is we put this, we called it a diaper pin. It was a pin that went through the pivot, which, because, if it's a door gunner, they're going to want to be able to pivot it, right?
Right.
We have to fix that. So we put a brace to hold it vertically, and then we put this pin through the shaft it's rotating on to hold it horizontally. And then it's a diaper pin because it goes around and it has a hook on the end that connects on the end.
Okay,
right?
all right.
Which sounds like that should be sufficient. Well, it is until it isn't. And I'm flying with Donovan Briley, who's a really good friend of mine, lost in Somalia, actually. First aircraft shot down. We're flying. He's in the right seat. I'm in the left. Night vision goggles. We're going in a range at Fort Knox. Live fire. No dry run. We got approval to usually have to make a dry pass to make sure there's nobody out there, but we got approval to go in hot. So we roll in. I'm flying. I pull the trigger, and the tracers are crossing in front of the nose. And so I
That's
let off.
bad, by the way.
Yeah, I let off
Don't
on the
cross
trigger.
the streams.
And I said, that is the worst expletive bore sight job I have ever seen in my life. So a bore sight is when you
Right.
orient the weapons to where they're going to impact where the sight is pointing, right? And Donovan, in classic Donovan style, says, Mike, I think we got a problem. So I look over, and I mentioned the finger lights earlier. Finger light is just a little battery operated LED that is infrared. So you can't see it unless you're wearing goggles. We have some that you
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. Mr. Hill from Pumpkin Center checked in and said, his Cracker Barrel's going woke. They need to drop the word cracker. Oh. New name, American Saltine Barrel. Okay, there you go. Jeff from Athens says, does that apply if I use words that other people can't pronounce? I don't know. I can't answer that for you. I need to know more. I guess I'm going to go lawyerly on you and say it depends. So the grades are not in from Jeff yet, but you uttered the word Seinfeld earlier, so I feel badly for your grades, just so you know.
Well, I think he asked me not to say it because he wanted me to say it almost. So he got what he asked.
He baited you.
Yeah.
You fell for it. Of course, I led you right into it by asking you what he was talking
you
about.
asked me what the word is.
I did. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to co-opt your grades. All right. Hey, I'll tell you what. Let's do this. I'm going to the phones. Jeff Rowe from Indiana. Hey, buddy. How are you?
I'm in Kentucky. That's a plus anyway.
Wow. You are moving today, man.
Yeah.
Well,
Phil, it's kind of sad. You wasted all those college years on becoming a lawyer, and you should have just become a bad graphic artist.
A bad graphic artist? What do you mean a bad graphic artist?
South Park sold to Paramount Studios today a 5-year contract for $1.5 billion.
Stop it. You are kidding me.
Yes.
$1.5 billion.
Billion. B with a billion. Yes.
Billion. Wow, man. 1.5. And you know what? And I granted there were probably some funny things. I never watched South Park. I never watched a single episode. I saw clips, but I am pretty sure that this is juvenile humor with juvenile level graphics, and they made $1.5 billion.
Don't insult me like that. I'm not a teenage.
I say,
you like SpongeBob SquarePants, so I can't help you. Do what?
Oh.
Well,
yeah, they don't get away from any subject. Can you imagine what the HR department there at South Park would feel like?
Now, I will say this: South Park just did not care. They just said stuff.
But you're talking about this racial thing and everything. This idiots that come up with this graph. I wonder what kind of graph they got for other races, and what you can say and what you can't say. What you would call an American Indian or a Hispanic or Asian.
I don't know.
And
they're the same people that still want the Washington Commanders to keep their name Washington Commanders.
Yeah. But I guarantee you, whatever the thing is, the only people that get fired would be the ones that are not black, because if they ever uttered the word, because then I guess you could come up with some good lawsuits that say, I'm not being treated equal here.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I said before, they have created a lawsuit. They have literally told the staff that if you're white, you're not allowed to say things, but if you're black, you are allowed to say it. And I don't care what the word is, you can't make it by race allowed to say and not allowed to say. That's not the way the First Amendment works.
Oh, I'd like to be the first person fired.
First white guy fired, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course. The way things go nowadays, though, I don't know if he'd prevail or not.
I don't know either, but who knows? But that's also in Minneapolis. So if the Minneapolis court system is the same as the Minneapolis politics, good luck. But at the very least, you've got a new EEOC. That's the federal system that reviews these kind of complaints for discrimination. But I don't know, man. It's just bizarre to me. And what do you bet that somebody in like management heard about this after the fact? It was like, wait, they did what? I mean, I would love to believe that somebody woke up in a board meeting and said, "Oh my God, we can't do that." But I don't know if they did or not.
Well, it's in Minneapolis, so maybe they're just as woke as what the people they hired. I mean,
there
Goes
is
without
that
saying.
there is that danger. Hey, what do you think about the segment we did earlier about the commies are coming? How the left has swung so far to the left that many of their candidates are now proving to be actual communist sympathizers.
Well, that's what I wrote you there, and I said, Paul Revere had, the British are coming, and you're kind of like the modern day Phil William, I guess, in saying the commies are coming, in a late night rant of Phil Williams.
One if by land, two if by sea. The commies are coming. Yeah, I watch and I think I'm not sure if the left has the means to pull out right now. They're becoming so invested in this narrative that I don't know if I'm not sure they even see it. But then again, maybe they do. But hey, I got about a minute left, my brother. I got to go get the grades because John sent the grades in, so I got to get those real quick. But you be safe on the road, and I'm glad you're already up there in Kentucky.
That's right. Going to the Bowling Green, and good luck, JP, on the grades.
Thank you.
All right, man. We'll see you tomorrow. Let me jump in here real quick. John from Huntsville says, "Hey, Phil, SpongeBob remark now makes JP today's winner." Is that the whole grades?
No, the one right before.
Oh, the one before it. I see
yeah.
it. Jeff Poor, Scott Butler both get an A+ for their equally fantastic performance. JP gets an A+ for his outstanding performance, even though he did say Seinfeld, but at least he didn't say the really bad S word, Saban, which means today's winner is obviously Phil. But then he came back real quickly with a caveat and said, "Hey, Phil, the SpongeBob remark now makes JP today's winner."
I think that's fair. I mean, it's only the greatest cartoon ever made.
I worry about your generation, man.
You've never watched it. You can't.
I don't
bash
have
it.
to. It's SpongeBob SquarePants. Who thinks that up?
A real good comedian.
Okay. All right. Listen, I say it all the time, but I mean it every time. There are more of us than there are them. God is still very much on his throne. Y'all stay in the fight. We'll see you tomorrow.